Chapter 1554. Well done, Brother Remnant I, Ting Luo grinned and praised. Remnant I nodded gently in Ting Luo's direction as a form of greeting. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace glanced at the Protoss and frowned slightly. May I ask, Goddess Xiaoxiang, why isn't the Imperial Sky Divine Child here? What right do you have to ask about the whereabouts of the Divine Child? Goddess Xiaoxiang glanced sideways with an unfriendly expression and asked instead. No, you've misunderstood, Goddess. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace explained hurriedly, this is the convention of the myriad races after all, and the Imperial Sky Divine Child is the young master of the Pros. Don't worry, I can make decisions for everything regarding the Protoss. As for the Imperial Sky, Goddess Xiaoxiang paused for a moment and a hint of pride flashed through her eyes. The Imperial Sky will definitely come. Furthermore, he'll give you guys a surprise. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace's heart sank. The surprise that Goddess Xiaoxiang spoke of might be a disaster for the human race. It was not appropriate for the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace to ask further and could only force a chuckle. I'm truly looking forward to it then. Xiaoxiang, what's the surprise for Brother Imperial Sky? Tell us. Ting Luo could not help but ask curiously. Goddess Xiaoxiang smiled brightly. You guys will know when the time comes. The Imperial Sky will bring some people that you guys can't imagine. Dong. The bell of Enigma Palace rang once more. Screech. A sharp screech sounded from the distant horizon. A series of bedazzling golden lights surged over with scorching auras. Hundreds of three-legged golden crows flapped their wings and flew over. The 4 three-legged golden crows in the lead had the strongest auras and the flames were the strongest. From afar, it was as though 4 blazing suns were flying over. The Golden Crow race had arrived at Enigma Palace. The eyes of the Buddhist monks were filled with grief and indignation as they looked at the 3-legged golden crows that flew over. Clear Heart Nunnery of the 6 Buddhist monasteries was destroyed by the Golden Crow race. Of the 6 Buddhist monasteries, Dipankara Monastery, Diamond Monastery, Formless Monastery, Wisdom Monastery, Hollow Monastery and Clear Heart Nunnery, it was the most peaceful one. Most of the nuns in the Clear Heart Nunnery were not interested in worldly affairs and were kind to others. Therefore, they rarely got involved in the battles of the cultivation world. Who would have thought that such a super sect would be mercilessly slaughtered by the Golden Crow clan? It was unknown how many nuns from Clear Heart Nunnery had died in that battle. The area within a radius of a few hundred li around Clear Heart Nunnery had been reduced to ruins by the Golden Crows. Countless living beings had perished in this fire, and the number of people in the world was uncountable. Ting Luo stood up and laughed loudly. I didn't expect the Golden Crow tribe's 4 crown princes to come for this convention of 1,000 tribes. How rare! The Golden Crow clan had a total of 10 sons. Among them, the 7th crown prince had the strongest battle prowess. On Penglai Island, 3 of them were killed by the Dragon Phoenix True Body. Among the 4 crown princes who had come to Enigma Palace, the 7th crown prince was among them. Other than him, there was also the 8th, 9th and 10th princes. Many 3-legged golden crows landed on the square. They transformed into human forms and walked toward the crowd. When he heard Ting Luo's greeting, the 8th crown prince laughed as well. We brothers were curious, so we followed 7th brother over to take a look at what's up with this convention of 1,000 tribes organized by the human race. How lively! The 9th crown prince was a little excited. Fellow Taoists, you're all here. The 10th crown prince was the youngest and looked like a 15 or 16-year-old youth. However, despite his young age, there would be an occasional hint of ruthlessness and ferocity between his brows. Not everyone was qualified to be one of the 10 Golden Crows. This was a title that could only be obtained after countless killings and bloody battles. Stepping on the corpses of many of their own race's bloodline, it was incomparably noble. Although the 10th crown prince was young, his hands were stained with endless blood. Without that ferocity, he would not have been able to become one of the 10 Golden Crows. The 4 crown princes of the Golden Crow race were gathered and they had different personalities. The 7th crown prince's expression was cold and emotionless. He had not said a single word since the beginning. The 8th and 9th crown princes were clearly more excited and extroverted. As for the 10th crown prince, although he did not say anything either, his eyes darted around in deep thoughts and no one knew what he was thinking. The primordial 6 races were all present. Among the primordial 9 races, only the primordial 6 races had clearly expressed that they would participate in the convention of the myriad races. There was no news from the dragons, barbarians, and Kuan race. In other words, the convention of the myriad races could begin. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace took a deep breath of air and stood out, declaring, "Fellow Taoists of the myriad races, thank you for giving Enigma Palace face and participating in this grand meet. I hereby announce that the convention of the myriad races is officially..." Hold on. Before the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace could finish, he was interrupted by a voice. The 8th Crown Prince of the Golden Crow race stood out and glanced sideways at the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace with a disdainful expression. "Who are you, old man? Why are you presiding over the convention of the myriad races?" The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace's expression was unchanged as he said in a deep voice, "I'm the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace and my Dao title is Qing Zhe. The convention of the myriad races this time round was initiated by Enigma Palace and held in Enigma Palace. Naturally, I should be the one presiding over it. 8th Crown Prince, do you have any objections?" "Objections?" The 8th Crown Prince shrugged. "Of course. Get lost with me, you're an eyesore." "Ha." Many golden crows burst into laughter. The Rakshasa race and Bloodvine races crowd cheered as well. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace grit his teeth and suppressed the anger in his heart, saying in a deep voice, "7th Crown Prince, is this the intention of the Golden Crow race?" "8th brother's words are my words," the 7th Crown Prince said indifferently. Teng Luo raised his brow slightly as well and licked his lips. "I'm curious as well. What right does an ant like you have to preside over the convention of the myriad races?" "Only us primordial races are qualified to preside over such a grand meet," Goddess Xiao Xiang nodded and said in a deep voice. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace stood on the spot with a terrible expression, neither advancing nor retreating. The convention of the myriad races had yet to begin and the primordial 6 races were already so overbearing and had the initiative. If the convention of the myriad races was handed over to the primordial 6 races, there would be no chance of peace talks. "But are you indignant?" When the 8th Crown Prince saw that the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace did not retreat, he could not help but raise his brow with killing intent. A commotion broke out in the crowd as well. The patriarch of some super sects frowned with worried expressions. "But even you ants are indignant?" The 8th Crown Prince surveyed his surroundings and said slowly without concealing the killing intent in his heart. Right then, the 7th Crown Prince spoke slowly, "Don't say that the Golden Crow race isn't sincere and isn't giving you humans a chance. It's fine if you want to preside over this convention of the myriad races. If any of you humans can step forward and defeat the Golden Crow race, we can let the humans preside over it. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a joke if any Tom, Dick, or Harry wants to preside over the convention of the myriad races?" Chapter 1555. The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace had a terrible expression. It was clear that the 7th Prince was referring to him by nobody. Furthermore, he did not hide it at all. Teng Luo nodded. "That's a good idea. If that person can't convince the masses, don't come out to preside over the convention of 10,000 races. It's embarrassing." "7th brother, just now you're wrong," the 8th Prince said with a smile. The 7th Prince glanced sideways. The 8th Prince said, "It's not about who can step forward to challenge the Golden Crow race, but who dares to." The 9th Prince surveyed his surroundings as well and shouted, "That's right. The Golden Crow race will give you humans a fair chance. Who dares to step forward?" Nobody replied. Even the patriarch of the super sects knew that they would definitely lose against the primordial races of the same cultivation realm. "Old 8, old 9, you're all half-martial ancestors. Come back and sit down. It's too much of a bully for you guys to attack. Let the clansmen behind you play." The 7th Prince spoke. The 8th and 9th Princes sat back down and crossed their arms, ready to watch the show. A golden crow appeared in a flash and surveyed his surroundings with a smile. I'm Jinyu. Who dares to come and play with me? There was a commotion in the crowd, but no one stood out. Ji Qingtian and the others had that intention. However, they had just entered the conjoint body realm and had no chance of winning if they went up now. Jinyu burst into laughter with a mocking expression. I'm only at the conjoint body realm. Half-martial ancestors of the human race can challenge me as well. I won't reject anyone. But is there still no one? Haha. Jinyu roared in laughter. You humans only have that bit of guts, and you want to preside over the convention of 10,000 races and negotiate peace with the primordial 6 races? I'll do it. Right then, a monk could not hold it in and stood out, attracting countless gazes. It's the abbot of Diamond Monastery, Monk Kong. To think that the abbot of Diamond Monastery would have such an explosive temper. Sigh, Clear Heart Nunnery was destroyed. It's not only Diamond Monastery, all the monks of the Buddhist monasteries are probably furious. Jinyu's gaze landed on Monk Kong Fa and nodded. Very well. You have some guts, bald monk. I wonder what your methods are. Today I'll show you. Monk Kong Fa's cultivation was already at the half-martial ancestor realm. The moment he entered the battlefield, he summoned his destiny-dermic weapon, the Vajra Scepter. There should be no place to live, but the heart should be born. Monk Kong chanted the Buddhist scriptures, and his body was instantly filled with a dazzling golden light. His heart was thumping in his chest, heavy and powerful. Crush. Monk Kong Fa's bloodline had already been cultivated to the tsunami blood realm. Although Monk Kong Fa was a half-martial ancestor, he did not dare to be careless. He immediately took out many trump cards and rushed towards Jinyu. Hee. Jinyu had a mocking look on his face as he laughed coldly. His figure flickered and disappeared in an instant. Monk Kong Fa's attack missed its target. Too slow. Right at that moment, Monk Kong Fa heard Jinyu's mocking voice. Monk Kong Fa was shocked. Without even turning his head, he swung his Vajra scepter and smashed it behind him. His attack missed again. Jinyu had already left. Among the primordial 9 races, the movement techniques of the Golden Crow race were only slightly inferior to the Rakshasa race. Diamond Monastery focused on body tempering and was completely countered by the Golden Crow race in terms of movement techniques. Shing. A gigantic wound appeared on Monk Kong Fa's back. His flesh was ripped apart and his bones could be seen as fresh blood spewed out instantly. Watch out, abbot! Many monks of Diamond Monastery exclaimed. Monk Kong Fa widened his eyes and focused his mind, wanting to capture Jinyu's whereabouts. However, in his eyes, Jinyu's figure was merely a faint golden light that he could not capture at all. Shing. Before long, another wound appeared on Monk Kong Fa's body. Monk Kong Fa gritted his teeth and didn't say a word. He continued to fight. He believed that as long as his Vajra scepter struck Jinyu once, he would definitely be able to severely injure the latter. Unfortunately, he could not even touch Jinyu's sleeves. Sigh. The abbot of Dipamkara Monastery, Monk Hui Shen, sighed gently. Before long, Monk Kong Fa was covered in wounds and the golden barrier on his body dimmed as well as his blood chi gradually declined. Admit defeat. We admit defeat. The titular disciple of Diamond Monastery stood out and shouted. Monk Kong Fa panted as well. I can't defeat you. You've won. As he said that, he wanted to retreat into the crowd of Diamond Monastery. You still want to leave? Jinyu's cold voice reverberated around Monk Kong Fa, drifting from left to right. Monk Kong Fa's blood chi was severely depleted and his reaction and defense were greatly reduced. All of a sudden, Jinyu's figure appeared behind Monk Kong Fa. He extended his palm and extended his sharp fingernails, stabbing them into the top of Monk Kong Fa's head. Monk Kong Fa paused and his gaze dimmed. His life force decreased sharply and his essence spirit was already pierced by Jinyu's fingernails. Monk Kong Fa was dead. Abbot. The monks of Diamond Monastery cried out tragically and charged forward one after another. But, do you want to die together? Jinyu's gaze intensified and his figure flashed, transforming into a golden beam of light that streaked through the crowd. Blood light surged. In the blink of an eye, the 3 monks of Diamond Monastery at the front were dead on the spot. The remaining monks of Diamond Monastery were so scared that their faces turned pale as they stopped hurriedly, not daring to advance. The titular disciple of Diamond Monastery said in a deep voice, "Jin Yu, we only want to retrieve the abbot's corpse. We have no intention of offending you." Corpse? Jin Yu smiled gently. "There's no corpse." With that said, a golden flame burst forth from his fingertip and landed on Monk Kong Fa's body. With a whoosh, a raging fire burst forth. Everyone from Diamond Monastery was stunned. Amitabha! When they saw that, countless Buddhist monks chanted Buddhist proclamations with sorrowful expressions. In the blink of an eye, Monk Kong Fa was burned to ashes without a corpse. Even his corpse was not left for him. Dipankara Monastery. Abbot Huishan sighed and stood up slowly. Right then, a palm appeared on Abbot Huishan's shoulder. "Abbot, let me do it." A young monk wielded a green lamp and said softly with a firm tone. Ming Zhenyu. Abbot Huishan was hesitant. Ming Zhen was at the late-stage conjoint body realm. However, Jin Yu was at the perfected conjoint body realm. Everyone knew that they might not be able to win against experts of the primordial races even if their cultivation realms were suppressed. Furthermore, their cultivation realms were lower than the experts of the primordial races. Monk Kong Fa was the abbot of Diamond Monastery and was a half-martial ancestor expert. However, he was killed by Jin Yu, who was at the conjoint body realm within dozens of breaths. Ming Zhen's cultivation realm was a minor cultivation realm lower than Jin Yu. There was almost no chance of winning. Chapter 1556. But no one dares to challenge me? Jin Yu sneered and surveyed his surroundings, mocking, "That's all you humans have. You can't even defeat me and you want to preside over the convention?" Exclamation point. Jin Yu spat with a disdainful expression. It was as though his saliva was spat on the faces of all the cultivators. The patriarch of the super sects fell silent. There were indeed some half-martial ancestor paragons in the immortal, fiend and Buddhist sects of this generation. If those monster incarnates stood out, they might not be able to defeat Jin Yu. However, all the cultivators knew that behind Jin Yu were the 4 princes, the entire Golden Crow race and even the primordial 6 races. Right now, Jin Yu was the one challenging the human race. However, the other experts of the primordial 6 races, young Master Gui Wu, Goddess Xiao Xiang and the other monster incarnates of the primordial races were watching from the side. Not many people could withstand that pressure. More importantly, if they fought Jin Yu, it would not be a spar, it would be a life and death battle. It seemed fair on the surface, but it was not. That was because while the primordial 6 races dared to kill without restraint, the human paragons present did not have the guts. Whoever dared to kill Jin Yu would have to endure the wrath of the Golden Crow race. At that time, there was a high chance that the entire sect would be implicated. Suddenly, the island master of Penglai Island said, "Since that's the case, it's only right for the young masters of the primordial 6 races to preside over the convention." Penglai Island agrees with this suggestion. Many cultivators were shocked when they heard that. If the primordial 6 races were to preside over the convention, it would mean that the human race would lose their final advantage and initiative. They would not even have a bargaining chip for peace talks. Many patriarch frowned and looked at the island master of Penglai Island in disbelief. The palace master of Enigma Palace had a grim expression as he said in a deep voice, "Tianqi, there are some suggestions that you should be cautious about." "I agree as well." Suddenly, the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect said, "Since Enigma Palace doesn't have the qualifications, it's only normal for the primordial 6 races to preside over it." The sect master of Malevolent Earth sect nodded as well. "This is the convention of the primordial 10,000 races to begin with. It doesn't make any difference who preside over it. The primordial 6 races once ruled Tianhuang mainland. They do have the qualifications." My Corpse Refinement Cult agrees. Poison Sect. Dongfang family and Shimin family agree. In the blink of an eye, Many super sects stood out to support the primordial 6 races. There was a commotion in the crowd. Snowdrift Valley's patriarch, Purple Firmament sect's patriarch, Dipankra Monastery's abbot and the other patriarchs were alarmed. They knew very well what this meant. There was a high chance that the super sects that stood out had already joined forces with the primordial 6 races or even submitted to them. Ling Hu curled his lips. These cowards are as timid as mice. They've already surrendered before the fight even started. We also agree. Right then, a conjoint body realm spider spirit raised his voice. This spider demon came from one of the 8 great demon regions, the Thousand Spiders Dune. The East Sea monster region agrees. A great demon from the East Sea stood out. Myriad Demon Valley agrees. Peacock Ridge agrees. In the blink of an eye, half of the 8 demon regions stood out and agreed to let the primordial 6 races host the convention of the myriad races. Ha! The Golden Crow 8th Prince reared his head in laughter. So, the return of the primordial 6 races to Tianhuang mainland is the wish of all the races. Since all the living beings of the myriad races agree, it would be impolite for us to refuse. I disagree. Right then, an untimely voice sounded. It was extremely ear-piercing to the experts of the primordial 6 races. A young monk walked out slowly. Another bald monk is here to die? Before the 4 princes could say anything, Jin Yu's expression darkened as he glared at the young monk with a murderous aura, ready to attack at any moment. Who is this little monk? Is he here to die with a late-stage conjoint body cultivation? Ming Zhen of Dipankra Monastery possesses the legacies of Fahua Monastery and Daming Monastery. He even obtained the legacy of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in the Tao Inheritance Ground and was once the titular disciple of Dipankra Monastery. He should have some capabilities. It's useless even if he has some capabilities. His cultivation realm is even lower than the Golden Crow race. He's simply courting death. I heard that monk Ming Zhen has a good relationship with Araki Takashi. Sigh, speaking of which, if Araki Takashi was still around, he would definitely be able to fight against the experts of the primordial 6 races given his combat strength. Many cultivators had conflicted expressions at the mention of Araki Takashi's name. Ever since Araki Takashi's rise, he had been targeted by the various super sects and was even killed jointly. However, many sects had to admit a fact. Araki Takashi was the strongest monster incarnate of the human race in this era. Late-stage conjoint body realm? On the battlefield, Jin Yu looked at Ming Zhen and suddenly sneered. Seems like there's really no one left in the human race. To think that a late-stage conjoint body would come here to die? But, bald monk, you want to challenge someone of a higher cultivation realm? Amit Ba. Ming Zhen held the green lamp in his left hand and shook his head gently. I merely want an explanation for Senior Kong Fa and the countless fellow Taoists of Clear Heart Nunnery who died. Alright, I'll send you to hell to meet them right now. Jin Yu's eyes shone brightly as he vanished from the spot in a flash. In the blink of an eye, Jin Yu had already arrived behind Ming Zhen. Reaching out, he extended his sharp fingernails and swiped towards Ming Zhen's head. His movement technique was way too fast. Most of the cultivators present could not catch sight of Jin Yu at all. All they could see was a streak of golden light flashing in their eyes. Ming Zhen stood on the spot motionlessly with his head lowered, as though he could not react at all. It's over. That little monk is already a dead man. Just now, that's how Monk Kong Fa died. Jin Yu is still in human form. If he reverts to his true form, his speed and strength will increase exponentially and his combat strength will reach an unimaginable level. Amidst everyone's discussions, Ming Zhen did not turn back nor did he move. He merely raised the green lamp in his hands and raised it above his head. A flame the size of a pinky burned on the green lamp, as though it could be extinguished with a casual pinch. However, when Jin Yu's palm landed on the flame, he shuddered and retracted his palm, as though he was agitated. Groar! Jin Yu shrieked tragically and retreated with a pained expression. The living beings of the 10,000 races looked over with shocked expressions. A huge hole was burned in Jin Yu's palm. However, there was not a single drop of blood and the flesh around it was charred. This scene was completely beyond the expectations of the living beings of the 10,000 races. Jinyu was defeated? What dermic weapon is that? It's so powerful. That seems to be the destiny dermic treasure of the founder master of Dipamkara Monastery, the Universal Light Buddha Emperor. That's not a dermic weapon, it should be an emperor weapon. It's that green lamp. That's right. I heard that in the ancient war, that green lamp was shattered by the emperors of the primordial races and fell from the level of an emperor weapon to an ordinary dermic weapon. To think that this dermic weapon was passed down to Mingzhen. End of Chapter 1. Chapter 1557. Bald Monk. Jinyu was enraged. All these years, the Golden Crow race reigned supreme in Tianhuang mainland and was almost invincible. He had never suffered such an injury before. Under normal circumstances, given the regeneration capabilities of the Golden Crow race, they should be able to recover quickly with their blood qi. However, the flames on the green lamp contained an extremely terrifying might. The moment Jinyu's blood qi surged over, it would be incinerated and turned into nothingness. You've angered me. Jinyu's expression was cold and his eyes surged with rage. He reared his head and roared as his blood qi surged and his body expanded. In the blink of an eye, he reverted to his true form. A gigantic three-legged golden crow had descended on the battlefield. The three-legged golden crow spread its wings that were dozens of feet long. Its body burned with blazing flames and every single feather shone with a golden light. It was clear that one of the 3 legs below its abdomen was incomplete. It was the claw that was burned by the green lamp. Are you trying to play with fire? Jinyu's voice sounded. Today, I'll let you have a taste of the destiny flame of the Golden Crow race. Jinyu opened his mouth and spat out a scorching flame. Golden light flashed and the temperature of the entire battlefield rose. That's the Sun Essence Flame. Legend has it that the Sun Essence Flame of the Golden Crow race can even transform into a blazing sun when cultivated to its limits. The living beings of the 10,000 races exclaimed. Mingzhen's expression was unchanged as he held the green lamp in his hand and chanted Sanskrit. His glabella shone and a stream of dermic power shot out from his fingertip into the green lamp. Swoosh! The flame on the green lamp suddenly swelled up crazily. The flame was so bright that it collided with the refined sun flame. The green and golden flames collided and devoured one another without giving way, resulting in a stalemate. This Mingzhen is not simple. Although the green lamp was once an emperor weapon, he won't be able to release such power if his comprehension of Buddhism is insufficient. That's right. There are way too few people who can suppress the Golden Crow race in terms of flames. Among the 9 races, only the Illumination Dragon lineage of the dragons can compete with the Golden Crow race in terms of the Tao of Fire. Jinyu activated his primordial spirit in a frenzy as flames danced in his eyes. Many golden crows, for princes and experts of the primordial 6 races were watching. He must not lose in front of everyone. Suddenly, 2 balls of golden flames flew out of Jinyu's eyes with an extremely terrifying aura. Eye technique, Eye of Flowing Fire. Mingzhen looked at the 2 balls of flames flying over and suddenly blinked. He lowered his eyebrows slightly and an extremely vast benevolent force emanated from him. The 2 balls of flames were extinguished the moment they arrived before Mingzhen. A bodhisattva's lowered eyebrows could dispel thousands of ocular techniques. Mingzhen's mighty power surged into the green lamp and the green flames burned brightly. Instantly, it devoured Jinyu's sacred sunfire and surged towards Jinyu. Jinyu's expression changed. He quickly spread his wings and prepared to escape the range of the green flames. At this moment, Mingzhen's voice was heard. Great Wish Seal. Mingzhen extended his palm and formed a seal. Then he slowly pressed it down in the direction of Jinyu. The speed at which the seal descended was very, very slow. However, Jinyu felt as if his entire body was being restrained by an extremely powerful force. He could not move at all. It was as if there was a huge mountain pressing down on him. The Great Wish Seal contained the power of will of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. As long as hell was not empty, one would not attain Buddhahood. Only by purifying all living beings would one attain Bodhi. Such a vast power of will could even suppress hell, let alone a three-legged golden crow. Against the great wish seal, the speed of the three-legged golden crow was completely useless. As though he was frozen in midair, Jin Yu could only watch helplessly as the green flames surged over and devoured him. Ah! Jin Yu shrieked tragically in the flames. The 10,000 races were shocked. Many cultivators were invigorated as well. This battle was actually won by Ming Zhen. Furthermore, he defeated the Golden Crow race with a lower cultivation realm. Ming Zhen's expression was unchanged when he heard Jin Yu's tragic cries in the flames, and he had no intention of stopping. However, Abbot Hui Shen of Dipankra Monastery had a look of worry in his eyes. Enough! Suddenly, the 8th prince said coldly. Ming Zhen was unmoved. You must have a death wish. Suddenly, the 8th prince's figure vanished from the spot. The moment he said that, he had already arrived before Ming Zhen and reached out to grab him. Before his palm descended, it had already transformed into the sharp claws of the Golden Crow race. Ah! A series of exclamations sounded from the crowd. As a half-martial ancestor, the 8th prince had attacked. This was no longer a difference of a minor cultivation realm. This was a suppression of cultivation realms. Ming Zhen was extremely calm and his blood chi surged. Instantly, he reached the tsunami blood realm and punched the 8th prince's palm heavily in reverse. Bang! Ming Zhen shuddered and grunted dully as he staggered 3 steps back with a pained expression. With every step he took, a deep footprint would appear on the ground. The strength of a half-martial ancestor was way too terrifying. Furthermore, this was one of the 10 golden crows. Indeed, it was as many cultivators had expected. Even if Ming Zhen defeated Jin Yu, there would be stronger primordial races that would step forward. However, when a half-martial ancestor of a primordial race appeared, no one of the same cultivation realm could fight against him. Little monk, I'll let you have a taste of my sun essence fire. Suddenly, the 8th prince opened his mouth and spat out a blazing golden flame that surged over. With a grim expression, Ming Zhen could only give up on killing Jin Yu and retract his green lamp. He conjured a green flame that burned towards the 8th prince's sun essence fire. This time round, the green flame was devoured by the sun essence fire almost instantly upon collision. One had to know that the refined sun fire contained a shred of divine power. Ming Zhen's green flame could not defend against it at all. Ming Zhen had nowhere to retreat when the sun essence fire enveloped him. Taking a deep breath of air, he suddenly assumed a lotus position on the ground and chanted sutras. Instantly, streams of golden light shone from his body. That was Ksitigarbha's true body. The sun essence fire enveloped Ming Zhen and burned him continuously. Ming Zhen pressed his palms together and his body was shrouded with golden light. He sat in the flames and channeled his essence spirit to defend with all his might. Foo-foo! The 8th prince sneered and said coldly, let's see how long more you can last. The 8th prince's spirit consciousness was vast and his dermic powers were boundless as they surged into the sun essence fire endlessly. The flames intensified and rose more than 100 feet tall. They burned brighter and surged with endless golden light, engulfing Ming Zhen's figure before long. Just now, the excited crowd calmed down gradually as they looked at the ball of flames. The eyes of many cultivators flickered with sadness. Who else is there in the human race? The 8th prince's aura was torrential as he stood in midair and looked down at the thousands of races. He said coldly, anyone who dares to step forward and fight me. Nobody replied. What a bunch of trash. The 8th prince spat with a disdainful expression and sneered. The fortune of the human race has run out and the era of the ancient emperors has passed. The only ones left are cowards like you. You're not fit to be the rulers of Tianhuang mainland. Every single sentence of the 8th prince seemed to be piercing the hearts of many cultivators. Some were indignant, and some were indignant. However, nobody stood out. That was because many cultivators knew that even if they stood out, they would be killed by the 8th prince with ease. They would only be humiliating themselves. There was no way they could defend against him. The human race isn't fit. Neither are you, a feathered beast. A cold voice came from the outside, causing an uproar. End of chapter. Chapter 1558. Feathered Beast. Who in this world would dare to call the Golden Crow race feathered beasts? Were they truly not afraid of death? The voice was hoarse and deep. However, there was an indescribable charm to it, as though it did not care about any living being or race. Who would have the guts to do so? Who would have the guts to do so? All the cultivators turned towards the source of the voice. Not far away, a cultivator walked over slowly. He had a head of white hair and a cold expression. His eyes were pitch black and he held a saber shrouded in fiend chi in his right hand. Shura! It's Shura Yenbeichen! The crowd exclaimed. Under normal circumstances, the titular disciple of Shura sect was the Shura. However, Yenbeichen had already left Shura sect a long time ago. However, in this generation, in the hearts of all cultivators in Tianhuang mainland, regardless of who the titular disciple of Shura sect was, there was only one Shura. He was the only one who was worthy of the title of Shura. The moment many cultivators saw who it was, their eyes flashed with relief. In this world, Shura was probably the only one who had the guts to do so. Shura was the only one who had the guts to do so. Shura was also the only one who dared to say the words feathered beast in front of the Golden Crow race. Shura? Eighth Prince's expression darkened as he said coldly, I don't care who you are. In my eyes, you're already a dead man. Right then, young Master Gewu coughed gently and stood up slowly, saying slowly, Shura, I know you. Initially, you were only the titular disciple of Shura sect. However, something happened and you lost your loved one. By chance, you comprehended the profoundness of the Hatred Sutra and your combat strength increased tremendously. You transformed completely and became a true Shura. All these years, you've been despised by the immortals, Buddhas and fiends. Even Shura sect can't tolerate you. I'm curious, why are you here? I'm here because I want to kill. Yenbeichen replied indifferently. Young Master Gewu smiled and said, the world of cultivation can't tolerate it. These super sects are all your enemies. To be precise, you should be on our side. Ting Luo, Goddess Xiao Xiang, and the others all turned to look at him. Everyone could tell that young Master Gewu was trying to rope Yenbeichen in. They couldn't help but take a few more glances at Yenbeichen. Ever since the arrival of the primordial 6 races, young Master Gewu had been watching from the sidelines without saying anything. Now that he stood out and wanted to rope in a human, it was clear that this person was extraordinary. I'm a person who cherishes talent the most. Young Master Gewu said, if you are willing to join the sorcerer tribe, I can guarantee that I will treat you as a member of the tribe and give you enough respect. The primordial 6 races were all extremely arrogant and viewed all living beings as ants. Not to mention the young masters of the various primordial races. But now, young Master Gewu came out personally to invite Yenbeichen and even made a promise. It was clear how sincere he was. The most important reason why young Master Gewu wanted to rope in Yenbeichen was because of Yenbeichen's potential. Fiend Emperor hatred was an existence second only to the human emperor. As for Yenbeichen, he was almost the second Fiend Emperor hatred and might even be stronger. I can join the sorcerer tribe. Yenbeichen paused for a moment and said, go and kill those feathered beasts first. The green glint in young Master Gewu's eyes flickered. Many cultivators were speechless when they heard that. In the world, Shura was probably the only one who would dare to say something as such. Gewu, 8th Prince said coldly, I allowed you to talk to him for so long because I gave you face. You can't protect him if he dares to insult the Golden Crow race like that. I only wanted to give him a chance because I cherish talents. Young Master Gewu smiled and said faintly, since he doesn't know how to cherish it, do whatever you want. If I can't use such a peerless saber, I might as well destroy it. 8th Prince turned around and sized up Shura from head to toe. He grinned and said sinisterly, Shura, I'm thinking about how I should torture you after suppressing you. Should I? You talk too much. Suddenly, Yenbeichen interrupted 8th Prince and slashed towards the 8th Prince with a backhand slash. A black beam tore through the air and burst forth with a suffocating aura of death. Streams of hatred fiend chi circled and enveloped 8th Prince instantly. Nobody could describe how terrifying that slash was. It was as though the sky had turned dark instantly. 8th Prince's pupils constricted violently and his expression changed starkly. There was a hint of fear in the depths of his eyes. It had been a long time since he felt the aura of death so close to him. Before that slash descended, he already had the illusion that he was half a step into the gates of hell. Under the gazes of the living beings of the myriad races, 8th Prince suddenly screamed and vanished from the spot. In his place was a gigantic 3-legged golden crow. Screech! The 3-legged golden crow was burning with incomparably blazing flames. It extended its strongest third claw and grabbed towards the hatred fiend saber. That third leg was the most powerful attack of the Golden Crow race. Back then, it was the third leg of the Golden Crow third prince that forced Su Zimo to use the divine phoenix claw. Clang! The hatred fiend's saber stood on the third leg and the sound of metal clashing could be heard. Immediately after, a blood mist spewed out in midair. A gigantic and menacing Golden Crow leg was thrown high into the air. At the same time, 8th Prince's tragic cry was heard. It was mournful and terrifying. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked as they watched this scene in disbelief. 8th Prince's Golden Crow leg was severed by the hatred fiend saber. The third leg of the Golden Crow race was similar to the Heavenly Eye of the Heavenly Eye race. Once it was crippled, it was extremely difficult to recover. Shura's slash had severed at least half of 8th Prince's cultivation. Shura! Many cultivators were excited. Just now, when the 8th Prince suppressed Mingzhen, he did not even transform into his true form. But now that Shura had arrived, even if 8th Prince reverted to his true form, he was severely injured by Shura's slash. Shura, you're finished. 8th Prince paused and said coldly, "You severed my leg. I'm going to skin you alive and grind your bones into ashes before imprisoning your spirit and torturing you for 1,000 years." Yen Beichen's expression was unchanged as though he did not hear anything. After slashing, he did not pause at all and descended once more like a shadow. When he saw that 8th Prince was scared out of his wits and guts. Not good. The 8th Crown Prince was astonished. This person wants to kill me. He could not be blamed for being careless. However, he truly had not expected Shura to be so bold as to not let him off after severing one of his legs and wanted to kill him. Even the other primordial races did not expect this, let alone him. 8th Prince had the entire Golden Crow race and the primordial 6 races backing him. Severely injuring 8th Prince was already a huge disaster. Yet this person wanted to kill him. Shura, how dare you? 7th Prince was enraged and reverted to his true form right away. Flapping his wings, he descended from the skies and lunged towards Yen Beichen. Among the 4 princes, 7th Prince was the strongest in combat. 9th and 10th princes followed closely behind as well. Shura's actions incurred the wrath of the Golden Crow race and the 3 princes attacked at the same time. End of chapter. Chapter 1559. Humph! Yen Beichen's expression was unchanged as his blood chi surged and he released the full aura of a half-martial ancestor. He waved the hatred fiend saber and slashed forward, hollering, "Endless hatred! Limitless hell!" Streams of rich fiend chi burst forth from that slash. A terrifying saber intent descended and enveloped the 4 princes of the Golden Crow race. The hatred was torrential and endless. The killing intent was torrential like purgatory. Strictly speaking, that slash had already surpassed Fiend Emperor hatred. Yen Beichen had fused 2 cultivation techniques of the Fiend sex, the Shura Sutra and Hatred Sutra. He was the only one who could fuse those 2 cultivation techniques perfectly. Hatred and murderous intent were completely unleashed from the slash. Everyone watch out. 7th Prince had a grim expression as he hollered. Cling, clang. The sound of metal clashing could be heard in midair. Yen Beichen's slash blocked all the 3 princes who were charging forward and defended against their attacks. The sun essence fire released by the 3 princes was also devoured by the hatred fiend chi and Shura's fiend chi, none of the flames were spilled. Yen Beichen strode forward with a cold expression. The hatred fiend's saber tore through the air and transformed into a black beam that slashed towards Eighth Prince. Eighth Prince's face was pale as he released an escape technique and turned into a streak of golden light that fled into the distance. Exclamation point! Blood flashed. Right in front of everyone, a gigantic three-legged golden crow was split into two from the middle by a black beam. Blood splattered everywhere and organs spilled all over the ground with a nauseating stench. No matter how fast Eighth Prince's escape technique was, it could not be faster than Shura's saber. That slash sliced Eighth Prince into two. Eighth Prince's essence spirit could not escape and was destroyed by that slash, dying instantly. Pissed. A series of gasps could be heard from the crowd. Many cultivators were dumbfounded with shocked expressions. Shura was way too strong. Not only did he seriously injure the Eighth Crown Prince, but he also killed the Eighth Crown Prince while being surrounded by the other three Crown Princes. For some reason, many cultivators felt their blood boil when they saw this scene. Their minds were in turmoil as they clenched their fists tightly. Prior to this, the primordial six races had killed too many cultivators when they arrived. However, from the beginning to the end, not a single cultivator dared to step forward, nor did anyone seek justice for the dead cultivators. And now, Shura was here. Shura was not upholding justice, nor was he seeking justice for others. Shura only wanted to kill people. But this was enough. Who said that the human race had no geniuses? Boom. The eighth son of heaven had fallen. On the battlefield, the might of the burning flames was greatly reduced. A figure tore through the flames and descended before everyone once more. It was Mingzhen. Mingzhen is not dead. A burst of exclamations came from the crowd, and many cultivators revealed looks of joy. Initially, many cultivators thought that Mingzhen would have been reduced to ashes after being refined by the Eighth Prince for such a long time. To think that Mingzhen was still alive. Back then, Ting Lingzi kept Mingzhen, who was at the Dharma characteristic realm, in his destiny blood gourd and refined him for an entire 10 years. However, he could not refine Mingzhen. Although the Eighth Prince's sun essence fire was strong, Mingzhen could not do anything to his Ksitigarbha golden body with the help of the green lamp. The Seventh Prince stood in midair and glared at the corpse of the Eighth Crown Prince with a cold expression as two balls of golden flames danced in his eyes. Screech! The Ninth Prince reared his head and cried with a sorrowful expression. Screech! Hundreds of golden crows reverted to their true forms one after another and circled the corpse of the Eighth Crown Prince in midair, crying out continuously. Shura, I'll have you pay with your life. The Seventh Prince let out a long howl. His body transformed into a burning spear as he charged towards Yen Beichen. The spear tore through the air and the dermic powers in the void burned. At the same time, the Ninth and 10th Princes attacked as well. The three princes released a series of dermic arts and joined forces to attack Yen Beichen. Yen Beichen's expression was unchanged as he wielded the Hatred Fiend's saber and fused the saber techniques of the Hatred Sutra and Shura Sutra perfectly. Every single slash contained two different saber intents. Even the three princes did not dare to take it head-on and had to avoid it. Even Mingzhen could not interfere in a battle of this level, let alone others. Humph! Ji Qingtan sneered. The Golden Crow race is so shameless. Earlier on, they said that it would be a fair fight. Now that they can't win, they're joining forces. It's fine, Lung Ro said slowly. Shura is way too strong. Even the three princes of the Golden Crow race are suppressed by him. Screech! The Seventh Prince cried once more. The situation on the battlefield changed instantly. Hundreds of three-legged golden crows circling in the firmaments seemed to have received an order as they attacked one after another, spewing out streams of essence sun fire that burned towards Yen Beichen. The crowd was in an uproar. This was no longer a three-man encirclement. They were gathering the strength of an entire race to destroy Shura. Mingzhen took a deep breath of air and joined the battlefield once more, stopping a golden crow and engaging in a huge battle. A girl in pink from the Pure Maiden sect of the Fiend sex walked out gracefully. She removed her veil and smiled at a golden crow race being. The Golden Crow race being's mind buzzed and his eyes widened instantly. He was mesmerized by the girl in pink's smile. The girl in pink was none other than the pure maiden of the fiend sex, Demoness G. Demoness G's eyes shone brightly as she said gently, "Go and kill him." She pointed to another three-legged golden crow beside the Golden Crow race being and gave the order. When the Golden Crow race being that was bewitched by her heard that order, his eyes revealed a conflicted look as he frowned in pain. Demoness G furrowed her brows slightly. Although her bewitchment technique could bewitch the three-legged golden crow, she had triggered the bottom line of the three-legged golden crow by causing him to kill his own race. Two three-legged golden crows noticed what was happening and charged towards Demoness G. Demoness G's bewitchment technique would definitely be extremely terrifying in a one-on-one fight. Just earlier, even if she could not order the three-legged golden crow to kill his own race, Demoness G could kill him at any moment. However, the power that Demoness G could release was limited under the cover of hundreds of three-legged golden crows. With her nimble steps, she could only hold back a few three-legged golden crows at most. However, it was negligible against hundreds of three-legged golden crows. Boom! An extremely thick golden staff descended from the sky and instantly smashed onto the back of a three-legged golden crow, smashing the three-legged golden crow into pieces. The essence spirit of the three-legged golden crow tried to escape but was restrained by a black cover filled with holes that descended from the skies. Golden lights burst forth one after another and raging flames burned within the black metal cover, burning the essence spirit of the golden crow race being into ashes instantly. At this point of the battle, another three-legged golden crow was dead. End of chapter. Chapter 1560. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. Up till this point of the battle, Shura was the only one who had the strength to kill the golden crows, and only Shura dared to do so. To think that another three-legged golden crow would die on the battlefield. Countless gazes turned over. 5 figures descended from the skies and barged into the battlefield, fighting against the many three-legged golden crows. The most eye-catching one was a long-armed ape monkey that was dozens of feet tall. It was covered in long fur and its eyes were bloodshot. Thumping its chest and stomping its feet, it roared into the skies and waved its shimmering golden rod with torrential demonic chi. The gigantic ape was extremely ferocious and violent. Even against the encirclement of 10 three-legged golden crows, it was still able to retaliate with ease. In terms of strength, the three-legged golden crows were no match for the gigantic ape. Beside the gigantic ape, there was a tiger that shone with lightning arcs. It had sharp claws and fangs and was fighting a three-legged golden crow that was flying in midair. An immortal crane circled in midair with flames burning on its body as well. Its bloodline was filled with the aura of the Bai Fong firebird. A golden lion roared in a dignified manner. In the middle of the 4 demons, there was a seemingly frail and small fox with fiery red fur that shone with a crystalline luster. The little fox gripped a pitch-black cover tightly with both hands and attacked at the right time. Just now, the three-legged golden crow was burned to death by the black cover. Monkey, Ling Hu, Ching Ching, the golden lion and little fox stood out and joined the chaotic battle. It's them. When the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect saw Monkey and the others, he suddenly stood up and declared, "Fellow Taoists of the primordial races, are these 5 beasts Araki Takashi and the taboo god? Mulanji is worth it. What are you doing?" The palace master of Enigma Palace was enraged and questioned loudly. Ji Chang'an could not help but say as well, "Your Heavenly Dipper sect watched helplessly as the human race was bullied. Now that our demon brothers are helping, you're repaying kindness with ingratitude?" "Fufu," Heavenly Dipper sect's sect master sneered and said, "Just a few beasts. This matter was caused by Shura's recklessness in killing the 8th Golden Crow Crown Prince. It's only right for him to pay with his life." "Not bad." The malevolent Earth sect master nodded as well. If not for the Shura, the convention of the myriad races would have been held successfully a long time ago. How would things have come to this? Upon hearing that, Ji Chengtian was not the only one. Even the patriarch abbots of Snowdrift Valley, Purple Firmament sect, Dipankara Monastery and Diamond Monastery glared angrily. While the super sects were arguing, the primordial 5 races were extremely calm. Initially, the primordial 5 races were merely watching the show and waiting for the situation to develop. However, the primordial 5 races were interested when they heard that Monkey and the others were the sworn brothers of the Araki Takashi. That Araki Takashi is probably dead. Ting Luo rubbed his chin and suddenly said, "Since we couldn't kill Araki Takashi, it's not a bad idea to kill his sworn brothers to vent our hatred. Should we head down and have some fun as well and stretch our muscles?" Ting Luo licked his lips. "I'm a little hungry. I can catch some food to eat." Remnant I did not move and had no intention of getting up. Yu Luosha closed her eyes to rest as well, as though she did not want to participate in this battle. Goddess Xiaoxiang's gaze landed on Demoness Ji. Suddenly, she stood up and said coldly, "Leave this demoness to me." Ting Luo asked, "Why are you interested in a woman, fellow Taoist Xiaoxiang?" "I haven't seen anyone with a prettier face than mine," Goddess Xiaoxiang said indifferently. "If there is, I'll destroy her personally." "Ruthless, I like it." Ting Luo burst into laughter. Young Master Gui Wu stood up slowly as well and looked at Shura in midair, saying coldly, "Seems like I'll have to deal with this person personally." On the battlefield. Although the 5 monkey siblings, Demoness Ji and Mingjin had joined in, it did not affect the situation much. There were less than 50 three-legged golden crows that they were holding back. In other words, most of the three-legged golden crows, including the 3 golden crow princes, were still attacking Yen Beichen in a frenzy. Against such a terrifying attack, Yen Beichen's aura was rising continuously. The stronger the hatred in his heart, the stronger the power of the Hatred Sutra. Even the 3 golden crow princes and hundreds of golden crows could not suppress him. The hate. Yen Beichen roared and his eyes were pitch black as he waved his Hatred Fiend saber. A series of Hatred Fiend chi revolved around him in a dense, endless manner, devouring all the dermic arts. Yen Beichen was wounded by a 3-legged golden crow. However, Yen Beichen slashed in reverse and killed the 3-legged golden crow. A single wound was exchanged for the life of a 3-legged golden crow. A bone-deep wound appeared on Yen Beichen's chest that was dripping with blood. However, as though he could not feel any pain, he slashed in reverse and sliced the 3-legged golden crow into 2. The essence spirit of the 3-legged golden crow was devoured by the Hatred Fiend chi and died on the spot. Kill. Yen Beichen had already lost his rationality and was immersed in the state of the Hatred Sutra. He could not feel any pain or pressure. There was only endless hatred left in his heart. He only wanted to kill all the living beings before him. The wounds on Yen Beichen's body increased. However, the 3-legged golden crows that died to the Hatred Fiend's saber increased as well. The ground was littered with 3-legged golden crow corpses. There were more than 100 of them. It was a shocking sight. "What are you guys waiting for?" The 7th Crown Prince shouted. He knew very well that when Yen Beichen was completely immersed in the Hatred Sutra, his hatred would be endless and his strength would be endless. His combat strength would rise infinitely. Unless his stamina was depleted, nobody could defend against his attacks. Back in the ancient war, the Fiend Emperor hatred had fallen into such a state. At that time, countless experts of the primordial races died to the Hatred Fiend's saber. Young Master Gui Wu smiled gently and walked towards Yen Beichen. A strange glint shone in his green eyes that were filled with a strange power. The next moment, the 3-legged golden crow before Yen Beichen vanished. In its place was a familiar figure. Pian ran. Yen Beichen was stunned and exclaimed instinctively, "Brother Yen, it's me. I'm not dead." The beautiful figure turned around and smiled faintly at Yen Beichen as she said gently, "Pian ran, you're not dead. You're not dead." Yen Beichen was emotional and tears rolled down his face as he put down the Hatred Fiend's saber in his hands. Clang, clang. Sensing danger, the Hatred Fiend's saber buzzed and sent out warnings repeatedly. Yen Beichen was completely immersed in the illusion and could not extricate himself. Shura. When she noticed that, Demoness Ji had an anxious expression. In a flash, she rushed to Yen Beichen's side and helped him out of the illusion. Right then, a figure appeared in front of Demoness Ji. Goddess Xiaoxiang had an indifferent expression as she looked down at Demoness Ji from above. A hint of jealousy flashed through her eyes as she said coldly, "Demoness, I'm your opponent." End of chapter. Chapter 1561. Demoness Ji's heart skipped a beat. The Xiaoxiang goddess before her was no ordinary Protoss, but the strongest monster incarnate of the Protoss in recent years. Now that she was targeted by such a monster incarnate of a Protoss, Demoness Ji could not divert her attention to worry about Shura. That was because she was in an extremely dangerous situation as well. "Sister, I'm not your match. Can't we talk?" Demoness Ji's eyes were slightly red and she had an aggrieved expression as she said with tears in her eyes. The bewitchment technique of the Pure Maiden Sutra did not care about race or gender. It was a Tao art that could bewitch all living beings and topple the world. Anyone who saw Demoness Ji's pitiful appearance would feel a sense of love and pity for her. Even Ting Luo, who was at the side, was slightly stunned as a sinister glint flashed through the depths of his eyes. However, he snapped back to his senses before long and licked his lips, murmuring softly, "This little demoness is quite capable." If it was any other Protoss, they would definitely be bewitched upon seeing Demoness Ji as such. However, the Xiaoxiang goddess reacted extremely quickly and two divine lights burst forth from her eyes. She released her God's Eye technique right away and tore through the air. The visual technique descended and broke through the intent realm created by Demoness Ji instantly. Demoness Ji executed nimble steps and dodged the two visual techniques by a hair's breadth. Her pink skirt was sliced by the two divine lights and turned into nothingness. Demoness Ji was secretly shocked. Although the Pure Maiden sect specialized in bewitchment techniques, their blood chi and physique were ordinary. If these two divine lights landed on her body, she was afraid that they would directly pierce through her body. Boom! The Xiaoxiang goddess strode forward and threw a punch towards Demoness Ji. Golden light burst forth and before the punch landed, the entire void trembled. It was truly hard to imagine that a casual punch from such a woman could release such ferocious power. Demoness Ji did not dare to take it head-on. In a flash, she shifted gracefully and dodged once more. The Xiaoxiang goddess sneered and her blood chi surged. Golden lights shone from her body as she chased relentlessly like a god. In terms of physique and blood chi, Protoss were ranked at the top of the primordial 9 races. As a Protoss, Goddess Xiaoxiang's physical body and chi blood force could suppress all other prodigies of the same level. There was no doubt that Demoness Ji would lose if she fought him head-on. Therefore, right from the start, Demoness Ji had been using nimble steps to dodge continuously. Although Goddess Xiaoxiang's attacks were ferocious, she could not lock onto Demoness Ji and her attacks missed repeatedly. Fairy Linglong had taught her the exquisite steps and it was no small matter. Even the Xiaoxiang goddess could not do anything to Demoness Ji. On the other side, Yen Beichen was affected by young Master Gei Wu's primordial spirit and fell into an illusion. He was unable to extricate himself and was in great danger. Even though the hatred demon saber kept warning Yen Beichen, it could not wake him up. The sorcerer tribe's cultivation of the primordial spirit was the most terrifying. Young Master Gei Wu was a terrifying existence that could control people's hearts. Young Master Gei Wu's attack this time round was even more terrifying than hundreds of three-legged golden crows. It was like a venomous snake in the darkness that bit Yen Beichen's vitals. External forces could not break through the hatred intent realm at all. Even if all the primordial 6 races attacked, Yen Beichen would not be able to break free from the hatred intent realm. If he wanted to break free of the hatred intent realm, he could only attack Yen Beichen. As for Qin Pianran, he was Yen Beichen's only weakness. Clang, clang. Suddenly, the hatred fiend's saber broke free from Yen Beichen's palm and transformed into a black beam of light that circled around him, blocking all the incoming dermic weapons. Immediately after, the hatred fiend's saber turned around and stabbed Yen Beichen's chest. Exclamation point. It pierced Yen Beichen's chest with a single slash. What happened? Is the fiend's saber trying to kill its master? Something's not right. That fiend's saber seems to be trying to wake Yen Beichen up. The crowd was shocked when they saw that. However, Yen Beichen, who was trapped in the illusions, suddenly clutched his chest with a pained expression. With a dull grunt, he broke free from the illusion and his eyes gradually regained clarity. "Good brother, thank you very much." Yen Beichen murmured softly and gripped the hatred fiend's saber in reverse, withdrawing it from his chest. The hatred fiend chi coiled around the wound and not a single drop of blood flowed out. Yen Beichen gripped the hatred fiend's saber tightly once more and suddenly felt waves of weakness and fatigue. Initially, he could not feel any pain or fatigue when he entered the hatred intent realm. Under the stimulation of the hatred fiend chi, he fought bravely. But now, although he broke free from young Master Gui Wu's illusion, he was also freed from the hatred intent realm and instantly felt a sharp pain. Up till this point of the battle, there were countless wounds on his body against the encirclement of the Golden Crow race. He might not be able to hold on if the battle continued. Monkey and the others were not optimistic about being surrounded either. Everyone was in danger. Young Master Gui Wu smiled gently to Seventh Prince. "The hatred intent realm has been broken. I'll leave the rest to you guys." "Thank you," Seventh Prince nodded gently. Without the support of the hatred intent realm, Yen Beichen could not defend against the encirclement of the Golden Crow race. Bang! Right then, an incomparably thick blood vine tore through the air and whipped Yen Beichen's chest heavily, sending him flying. "Ha!" Ting Luo's laughter sounded. "Gui Wu, you've already had your fill. I haven't even attacked yet." When he saw that, the Palace Lord of Enigma Palace was enraged and could no longer hold it in as he hollered, "Ting Luo, are the primordial 6 races going to follow the rules? You guys clearly agreed to fight one-on-one. When you saw that you couldn't win, you joined forces with your entire race to suppress the Shura. Now that your Bloodvine race, Protoss and which race are attacking, what's the meaning of this?" "That's right." Snowdrift Valley's Valley Master slapped the table and stood up, saying in a deep voice, "The living beings of the 10,000 races are all here. How can the primordial 6 races be so domineering, disregard the rules and go back on your words? How can the 10,000 races be convinced?" Cultivators from Purple Firmament Sect, Dipankara Monastery, Overlord Palace, the Immortal, Buddhist and Fiend sects stood out one after another and hollered, "Rules?" The smile on Teng Luo's face vanished and his expression turned cold. He looked at the patriarch of the super sects and said coldly, "Rules are set for weaklings like you. The strong are there to break the rules. Furthermore, the primordial 6 races will have the final say in the rules of Tianhuang mainland from now on. All of you have to listen up." "Why should we?" A cultivator was indignant and could not help but mutter, "The primordial 6 races are still in charge of Tianhuang mainland right now." Suddenly, a blood vine burrowed out from the ground beneath the cultivator's feet and pierced his chest. The cultivator's face was pale as he lowered his head slowly and looked at the thick blood vine that popped out from his chest. His gaze was shocked and blood flowed continuously from his mouth. The gigantic mouth at the top of the blood vine opened slowly, revealing its menacing fangs that shone with a cold glint as it swallowed the cultivator's head. The fangs retracted and almost bit off the cultivator's neck, causing a blood mist to spray out. Right in front of everyone, the blood vine squirmed and swallowed the cultivator into its stomach before long. Blood essence surged into Teng Luo's body through the thick blood vine. Suddenly, a series of strange blood scars appeared on Teng Luo's face. They crawled all over his face like spiderwebs and disappeared before long. With a ferocious expression, Teng Luo stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lips, grinning. "What fresh flesh! It's delicious!" End of chapter. Chapter 1562. Many cultivators felt their hairs stand on end when they saw that. That was a conjoint body mighty figure of Overlord Palace. Yet, he was devoured by Teng Luo just like that. Bloody hell, what's there to be afraid of? The Overlord Palace's master could no longer hold it in and withdrew a gigantic spear from his storage bag, slamming it heavily on the ground and shouting, "The reason why we of the Fiend sects cultivate is to seek freedom and freedom. Now that we're living such a sullen life, We might as well fight with all our might. Even if I die, I want to die with a bang. That's right. The patriarch of Shura sect stood out as well and said coldly, at most, we'll just die. Who doesn't die? Even if you're an emperor, you won't live as long as heaven and earth and shine with the sun and moon. You'll die of old age one day. Of the 7 fiend sects, Overlord Palace, Shura sect and Pure Maiden sect stood out. The patriarch of Purple Firmament sect stood up slowly and said in a deep voice, if we have to endure this humiliation, what's the point of living forever? Immediately after, Snowdrift Valley and Soaring Feather sect of the Immortal sects stood out. All the monks of the Buddhist monasteries stood up. Of the 5 heretical doctrines, Little Fatty of Tomb sect and Shurjian of Puppet sect stood out as well. Cultivators of the 4 unorthodox groups stood up as well. Of the 3 ancient aristocratic families, the Nangong family and Baiming family stood out. Many cultivators of Enigma Palace stepped forward. Instantly, the crowd was agitated. One after another, powerful figures soared into the air from the human race and burst forth with incomparably domineering auras to fight against Ting Luo. The primordial 6 races had descended and massacred the human race wantonly. The cultivators had suppressed their anger and could not hold it in any longer with nowhere to vent it. Not everyone in the human race was a coward. The old storyteller had once said that the cultivation world merely lacked a true expert who could rally and lead the human race. Now, the patriarch of Overlord Palace and Shura sect stood out. That scene seemed to have triggered a chain reaction as the crowd stood up as well. Many cultivators felt their blood boil as they glared at Ting Luo and the Bloodvine race with killing intent. Their initial fear had long been forgotten. Ting Luo's eyes shone brightly and he looked excited. He grinned and said, "What? You bunch of ants still want to defy the heavens? I advise you to calm down." Right then, the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect said coldly, "Right now, you guys are merely hot-blooded and impulsive. Don't wait a little longer. By then it'll be too late for regrets." Just as the crowd's blood was boiling, someone poured a bucket of cold water on them. The Valley Master of Snowdrift Valley sneered, "Lang Qing, it's truly humiliating for someone like you to be the patriarch of an immortal sect." The Malevolent Earth Sect's sect master replied, "Fufu, I think that fellow Taoist Lang Qing's words make sense as well. I'll kindly remind everyone that it's best not to fight with fellow Taoists of the primordial 6 races." Peng Island's island master crossed his arms and sneered, "Since you guys are courting death, don't blame us for not helping you." "How shameless!" Little Fatty hollered, "I think Penglai Island has already submitted to the primordial 6 races, right?" The island master of Penglai Island had a calm expression. "What's wrong with submitting? The primordial races recuperate and return in a domineering manner. They'll definitely dominate Tianhuang mainland and rule over the 4 directions. If Penglai Island doesn't choose to submit, should we send ourselves to our deaths with you guys? It's like hitting a rock with an egg. What a joke." Many cultivators felt disgusted when they saw the island master of Penglai Island's face. "Live well? You're way too naive." The Overlord Palace's master sneered. "The primordial 6 races will definitely enslave the 10,000 races if they rule over Tianhuang mainland. With the ancient war as a precedent, do you think that the primordial 6 races will let the human race off?" The palace master of Enigma Palace waved his hand gently. "Our Daos are different, so there's no need to fight. Cultivators of our generation would rather die standing than live on our knees. Kill! 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 Kill!" The group of cultivators roared. A bunch of ants shouting and screaming. "Kill them for me!" Ting Luo waved his hand and ordered, being the first to lunge into the crowd. Hundreds of Bloodvine clan members charged forward and took root in the ground. They waved their thick blood vines and interweaved into an inescapable net filled with blood chi between the heavens and the earth. The moment both sides collided, a blood mist spread and countless cultivators died. However, against the attacks of many cultivators, there were also Bloodvine beings who were killed on the spot. Enraged, Ting Luo reverted to his true form as well. Dozens of blood vines tore through the air and crushed more than 10 cultivators, descending upon the Overlord Palace's master. Dozens of blood vines coiled around the Overlord Palace's master. That Teng Luo's voice sounded with a cold, killing intent and endless rage. A blood mist exploded and the Overlord Palace's master was killed by Teng Luo. Boom! Right then, a pitch-black beam of light descended and pierced Purple Firmament Sex Patriarch's head instantly. Without a single word, Purple Firmament Sex Patriarch's headless corpse fell from midair. The remnant I had attacked. A single visual technique killed the Overlord Palace's master. Not far away, many heavenly eye beings charged over. If it was only the Bloodvine race, the many experts of the human race could still fight against them. However, with the addition of the Heavenly Eye race, there was no longer any suspense in this battle. The opening of the Heavenly Eye was way too lethal. Cultivators fell to the ground one by one. Their broken limbs danced in the air. Tragic cries, wails and cries reverberated through the world. Young Master, are you afraid that you'll be tainted by the dirty blood of those human ants? Why don't you let us go and have some fun? Some of the Rakshasas could not hold back any longer and were tempted as well. Yulucha sighed in her heart, closed her eyes and nodded. In her opinion, the human race was doomed even if the Rakshasas did not attack. One after another, ferocious-looking Rakshasas danced in midair with scimitars in their hands and swept through the crowd. Everywhere they passed, there would definitely be a bloodbath. The addition of the Rakshasas caused the front line of the cultivators to collapse instantly. Finally, some cultivators could not take it anymore and fled into the distance. Fear was contagious. Chapter 1563. I'm Araki Takashi. When those 4 words landed in the crowd, it was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples, shocking all the living beings of the 10,000 races. The words seemed to have some kind of magic. The cultivators who were in the middle of a fierce battle subconsciously stopped what they were doing and looked in the direction of the voice. Araki Takashi was a title that everyone in the world knew about. Even among the primordial 6 races, he was infamous. Back in the Battle of Myriad Phenomenon City, the primordial races knew that a monster incarnate was born in the human race. In fact, he could even fight against the Rakshasa and Protoss at the Jindan realm. However, the primordial races were not bothered. However, perfected being Jindan posed no threat to the primordial races. It was only after the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley that the name of Araki Takashi spread completely among the primordial 6 races. As such, it attracted the attention of the primordial 6 races and they issued killing orders one after another, wanting to kill Araki Takashi. However, to think that in the battle on 6-Star Mountain 100 years ago, more than 10,000 Bloodvine race clansmen died and their young master, Ting Lingzi, died as well. However, Araki Takashi vanished from Tianhuang mainland and there was no news of him ever since. Young Master Gewu, Goddess Xiao Xiang, Remnan I and the other young masters of the primordial races were extremely proud and confident. They were not afraid of Araki Takashi at all. In their opinion, even if Araki Takashi was still alive, he would definitely not dare to appear in today's convention. The primordial 6 races were gathered and the killing order was still in place. If Araki Takashi dared to come, it would be equivalent to him walking into a trap and courting death. However, they had not expected Araki Takashi to really come. Furthermore, the moment he appeared, he killed the new young master of the Bloodvine race and shot down a Rakshasa. Young Master Grey Wu had a grim expression. Goddess Xiao Xiang frowned as well. Just now, even they might not be able to escape unscathed from that arrow. In the chaotic battle, none of them noticed the arrow. Only Remnant Eye's powerful senses sensed the danger and warned them. However, it was too late. Teng Luo was already a dead man. With the help of Lung Ro, Ji Qingtian pulled out the blood vine that had pierced through his chest. Although his face was pale, he looked excited. Zimo is here. Yes, he's here. Lung Ro nodded as well. Don't worry. With Zimo around, these primordial races won't be able to cause much trouble. Big brother. Little Fatty couldn't help but laugh out loud. Silly Jian looked. My big brother is here. Little Fatty shook Shi Jian's body with all his might. Shi Jian was already seriously injured. After being shaken by little Fatty a few times, his bones almost fell apart. He said weakly, "Damn Fatty, are you trying to shake me to death?" Although Shijian was cursing, for some reason, his eyes reddened and he began to cry. "Araki Takashi! It's Araki Takashi!" Many cultivators who were fleeing stopped in their tracks and looked up with excited expressions. It's Araki Takashi of the human race. The paragon of the human race. Initially, the confidence of many cultivators had already collapsed. However, after Araki Takashi's arrival, many cultivators regained their hope and fighting spirit. Under countless gazes, a figure appeared on the city walls of Enigma Palace. He was dressed in green robes, had black hair and a burning gaze. There was a malevolent aura between his brows and he wielded a jade-green gigantic bow. The green-robed cultivator walked towards the battlefield unhurriedly. However, the voids would tremble with every single step he took. An extremely terrifying torrential aura burst forth from the green-robed cultivator, as though he wanted to trample all living beings beneath his feet. Araki Takashi! Young Master Guiwu stood up slowly and narrowed his eyes. The remnant eye stood up as well. A pair of pitch-black eye sockets were facing Suzumo's direction, emitting a dim light. Yuluocha looked at the newcomer and frowned slightly. That green-robed cultivator must be that person's clone. Among everyone present, Yuluocha was the only one who knew of the existence of Wu Dao's true body. In Yuluocha's eyes, although the green-robed cultivator looked identical to Wu Dao's true body, there was still a huge difference in terms of aura. Humph! Yuluocha's heart skipped a beat as she lamented internally, "You've bullied me for so long. I'll bully your clone later so that it won't be considered as betraying you." The palace lord of Enigma Palace looked at Suzumo, who was walking over slowly with a conflicted expression. It had only been 100 years and Suzumo had already entered the half-martial ancestor realm. His cultivation speed was terrifying. Under normal circumstances, he had quite a bit of conflict with Suzumo. The dermic-breaking bow in Suzumo's hands should have been his dermic weapon. Furthermore, it was precisely because of Suzumo that he was stripped of his position as the palace lord and had to reflect on his mistakes in seclusion before regaining his freedom this year. However, at that moment, the palace lord of Enigma Palace could not feel any hatred towards Suzumo. He only hoped that Suzumo could protect the final dignity of the cultivation world and the human race. Because of Suzumo's appearance, there was a momentary pause on the battlefield. Many primordial races stopped their slaughter and turned to look over. "What are you guys looking at?" Young Master Gawu glared at Suzumo coldly and suddenly said, "Leave this person to me. Continue killing until all the humans submit." Upon hearing that, many primordial races reacted and continued their pursuit. Hundreds of three-legged golden crows were prepared to launch their final attack on Monkey and the others towards Yen Beichen. "Shoo!" With a cold expression, Suzumo suddenly raised his hand and pulled the dermic-breaking bow. An arrow of dermic power condensed and shot into the group of three-legged golden crows, exploding into a blood mist. Hundreds of three-legged golden crows gathered together could not dodge the arrow at all. Given Suzumo's cultivation as a half-martial ancestor, the arrow shot with dermic power with the help of the dermic-breaking bow was extremely terrifying and the three-legged golden crows could not defend against it at all. That arrow pierced through the bodies of at least 5 or 6 three-legged golden crows. The three-legged golden crows at the front endured the most ferocious power of the dermic power arrow and their bodies exploded. Their essence spirits were destroyed on the spot and they died. That arrow caused the battlefield to pause once more. What's there to be afraid of? The 9th prince said coldly, "That's an ancient unique treasure, the dermic-breaking bow. It has an extremely long cooldown time." He had just shot an arrow, and before he could shoot a second arrow, he was already a dead man. "Kill him." The 9th prince's figure flashed as he charged towards the severely injured and weak Yen Beichen. Shoo! Right then, the sound of an arrow tearing through the air sounded and arrived before him instantly. What? He shot a second arrow so quickly. The 9th prince's heart skipped a beat as he instinctively reached out with his golden crow claws and grabbed the arrow. Boom! The arrow shattered. The ninth prince's palm was pierced by the arrow as well and was dripping with blood. The ninth prince cried out in pain. Before he could react, a second arrow descended. How is that possible? The ninth prince's expression changed starkly. Without hesitation, he turned into a streak of golden light and wanted to release an escape technique to escape. Immediately after, 3 arrows tore through the air and sealed off the ninth prince's escape route. The seventh prince exclaimed. Even he, young Master Gewu, Remnant I, and the other young masters of the primordial races did not expect Su Zimo to be able to pull the dermic-breaking bow continuously and shoot arrows, let alone the ninth prince. An arrow pierced the ninth prince's chest. The tremendous power directly blasted his fleshly body into pieces. A Yuan spirit had a panicked expression as it escaped by a hair's breadth. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly and a Sanskrit sound descended. The ninth prince's essence spirit shuddered gently. Under everyone's gaze, its light dimmed and it dissipated into the world. The ninth prince was dead? There were only 3 updates today. His head hurt and he couldn't write anymore. End of chapter. Chapter 1564. The entire process took a long time to describe. Su Zimo shot 5 arrows in the blink of an eye. Even the other 2 princes did not manage to react before the ninth prince died. Most importantly, no one expected the ancient unique treasure, Dharma Eradication Bow, to be able to release such terrifying power in the hands of Su Zimo. Even the primordial 6 races were shocked, let alone the living beings of the myriad races present. All these years, the living beings of the 10,000 races had long heard of Araki Takashi's name. He was decisive in killing and was the #1 monster incarnate of the human race. However, they had not expected that after witnessing it with their own eyes today, Araki Takashi would be even more terrifying, domineering, and sharper than they had imagined. It had only been a short while since Araki Takashi arrived at Enigma Palace and the 7th Prince and Ting Luo, 2 half-martial ancestor experts, were dead. It was way too ruthless. Prior to this, the cultivation world would tremble in fear if they wanted to kill an ordinary expert of the primordial races. Furthermore, they had to pay an extremely heavy price. But now, Araki Takashi had attacked and shot down 2 young masters consecutively, shocking the primordial 6 races on the spot. The entire Enigma Palace was filled with a thick blood stench. Although the experts of the primordial 6 races stopped temporarily in midair, everyone could sense that an even more violent storm was about to arrive. This time round, even the 7th and 10th princes gave up on hunting down Yen Beichen for the time being and turned to Su Zimo. Young Master Gewu's eyes danced with a dark green glint and a white bone staff appeared in his hands unknowingly. Facing Su Zimo, the heavenly eye in his glabella cracked open with an extremely terrifying aura, as though it could open at any moment. Yu Luosha stood up slowly as well and prepared to attack. Goddess Xiaoxiang, on the other hand, did not take Su Zimo seriously. She had chased after Demoness Ji for so long and was about to kill her with her terrifying aura and powerful physique. There was naturally no way she would give up so easily. Kill! Suddenly, the 7th Crown Prince let out a long cry as his body transformed into a beam of golden light that shot into the sky and into the ground. He then began to circle around Su Zimo in an unfathomable manner. In his heart he was extremely wary of Su Zimo's Lawbreaker Bow. This was the only way to avoid being targeted by the Spellbreaker Bow. This long howl was like the horn of war, and it restarted the bloody battle. The experts of the primordial 6 races charged into the crowd of cultivators of Snowdrift Valley, Overlord Palace, Dipankra Temple and others and massacred them wantonly. Blood gushed out and corpses littered the ground. At the same time, young Master Gewu waved his staff and chanted a series of strange incantations. Suddenly, 9 menacing skulls appeared beside him. Evil chi filled the air and their eyes shone with a faint green light. They glared at Su Zimo and charged over. A figure tore through the air at a shocking speed and arrived before Su Zimo in the blink of an eye. Reaching out with her slender hand, she struck towards Su Zimo's shoulder. Only someone from the Rakshasa race could release such terrifying speed. As the young master of the Rakshasa race, Yuluosha was even faster. It was clear that she was holding back and did not summon her destiny dermic weapon or kill Su Zimo. Instead, she merely struck at Su Zimo's shoulder. Villain! Yuluosha glared at Su Zimo and sent a voice transmission with her spirit consciousness. You've bullied me for so long. It's not too much for me to teach your clone a lesson, right? You want to teach me a lesson? You're thinking too much. Su Zimo glanced at Yuluosha indifferently. The moment the primordial races attacked, a pair of wings grew behind Su Zimo and his body shone with electric arcs. Boom! A tiny crack appeared on the heavenly eye in the glabella of the remnant eye. However, countless runes surged and chaos chi filled the air, as though the world was about to split apart. A dark beam of light descended. Although the remnant eye was the last to attack, the dark beam of light was the first to arrive. But, unfortunately, the moment the dark beam of light descended, Su Zimo's figure had already vanished from the spot. Ethereal wings, lightning escape and ground traversing golden light burst forth at the same time and charged out of the attacks of the young masters of the primordial races. The attacks of the young masters of the primordial races missed. The young masters of the primordial races had long forgotten the rules of fairness and fighting one-on-one. They attacked Araki Takashi at the same time. Su Zimo's figure had just appeared. Two figures that burned with golden flames swooped over like blazing suns that had fallen from the skies, wanting to incinerate everything. The two Golden Crow Princes found an opportunity to attack and did not give Su Zimo any chance to catch his breath. However, the moment Su Zimo appeared, the Spirit Breaker bow in his hands was already drawn. A dermic power arrow with a terrifying aura was gathered on the bowstring. Shoo! The arrow tore through the air and the power contained within it seemed as though it wanted to penetrate the two three-legged golden crows of the 7th and 10th princes. The two Golden Crow Princes were charging towards Su Zimo to begin with and could not stop their momentum at all. It was already too late for them to dodge. The two Golden Crows attacked at the same time. Boom! The claws of the two princes grabbed the dermic power arrow at the same time and shattered it. However, the two Golden Crow Princes shuddered as well. The 7th prince was the strongest in combat and merely felt his Golden Crow foot go numb. As for the 10th prince, he was the youngest and had the weaker combat strength. That arrow caused his blood chi to surge, and he could no longer feel the Golden Crow foot beneath his abdomen. Shoo! 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 Su Zimo drew his Spirit Breaker bow and shot out 3 arrows in succession. The first arrow was shot towards the 9 skulls that were flying over. Although the power of the skeleton curse was strong and evil, it was still a curse and could not escape the essence of dermic power. All kinds of spells were nothing in front of the spell-breaking bow. The 9 menacing skulls were penetrated by the dermic power arrow. They could not defend against the dermic power arrow for a moment. Instead, their dermic powers were absorbed by the arrow, causing the aura of the dermic power arrow to turn increasingly terrifying and faster. Right in front of countless gazes, the 9 skulls vanished after the dermic power arrow pierced through them. As for the dermic power arrow, it had already transformed into a gigantic spear that emitted a ghastly green glow and pierced towards the young Master Guiwu. Aye! The young Master Guiwu's expression changed starkly and he nearly cursed. Given his physique and bloodline, he would most likely die if he was grazed by the spear, let alone take it head-on. Displacement swap. Suddenly, the young Master Guiwu hollered and released a secret skill. Waving his staff, he pointed at a witch beside him. Suddenly, the young Master Guiwu's figure vanished from the spot. He was replaced by the witch beside him. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the two of them swapped positions. Although it was only a short distance, the young Master Guiwu was able to escape from the sharpness of the gigantic spear. Actually, displacement swap was a minor mystical power. The young Master Guiwu had only advanced to the half-martial ancestor realm because he had comprehended a trace of the power of this mystical power. Right now, he could only swap positions with the person beside him. Any further and he would not be able to do it. If this minor mystical power was comprehended to the extreme, It could evolve into a peerless mystical power, stellar transposition. The power of that was not something that could be manifested by a simple displacement swap. Chapter 1565. Boom. The witch that was switched over by young Master Geiwu could not react at all. In a daze, he was pierced by the gigantic spear and his body exploded instantly, destroyed in both body and spirit. The lethality of the gigantic spear was not limited to that. Initially, there were more than 10 witches standing behind young Master Geiwu. After shattering the body of the first witch, the gigantic spear did not weaken at all and pierced into the crowd. Flesh and blood splattered and clouds of blood mist exploded in a shocking manner. Caught off guard, the dozens of witches suffered devastating injuries. The witches that were pierced by the gigantic spear could not defend against it at all and died on the spot without any chance of survival. As for the witches who were slightly off, their bodies could not withstand the gigantic spear and were torn apart instantly. Although the essence spirits of the witches were strong, their bodies were way too weak. The witches reacted faster and abandoned their bodies with their essence spirits. Although they managed to preserve their lives, their bodies were completely gone. More witches were pierced by the gigantic spear on the spot. Out of the dozens of witches, only 3 survived. Furthermore, these 3 sorcerer tribe members were only left with an inexplicably terrified primordial spirit. It was trembling in midair. The rest of the sorcerer tribe members were shocked. They looked at Master Geiwu in fear. Although the power of the dermic dispersal bow was great, it was only a dermic power arrow after all, and its lethality was limited. Just now, the reason why the witches suffered such heavy losses was all because of young Master Geiwu. That was because he released a dermic art and betrayed his clansmen in order to escape. Young Master Geiwu's expression turned grim when he sensed the gazes of his clansmen. That was only the first arrow that Su Zimo shot. Su Zimo's second arrow was shot towards Yuluosha, who was in midair. Yuluosha's speed was even faster than the 3-legged golden crow. Yuluosha chuckled and flapped her wings, dodging the dermic power arrow with ease. The young masters of the primordial races were wary of the dermic dispersal bow. However, Yuluosha did not think much of it. Given her speed, the dermic dispersal bow could not threaten her at all. As for Su Zimo's third arrow, it was aimed at the incoming black light. This black light was the eye technique that the remnant I just now released. Although Su Zimo dodged, the dark beam chased closely after him as though it had a mind of its own. Boom! The magic power arrow collided with the black light, erupting with a loud bang. The Heavenly Eye Clan's eye technique was actually not broken by the mana arrow. There was a trace of divine power infused into that visual technique. The attacks of the 5 great young masters were all blocked by Su Zimo. At this moment, Su Zimo stood in the air and let out a long howl. The blood in his body surged as he drew the bow again. In Su Zimo's sea of consciousness, his primordial spirit had already been pushed to its limits. The lotus platform of creation spun slowly beneath him, and multicolored light filled the air, constantly nourishing his primordial spirit. The bow was like a full moon. The young masters of the primordial races had solemn expressions and were tense. Apart from Yuluocha, no one could underestimate the killing power of the spellbreaker bow. The 2 young masters that he had underestimated were already dead. The arrow was like a shooting star. An arrow tore through the air. The young masters of the primordial races felt their hearts skip a beat. Some of them prepared to defend while others prepared to dodge. However, before long, the young masters of the primordial races realized that the arrow was not aimed at them at all. Instead, it shot into the crowd. In the chaotic battlefield, a 3-legged golden crow had a ferocious expression and a ferocious gaze as it launched a frenzied attack against Yen Beichen, releasing killing moves repeatedly. Suddenly, the 3-legged golden crow felt his scalp prickle. The sound of an arrow tearing through the air sounded in his ears, and he could vaguely make out a cold glint from the corner of his eye. Immediately after, he felt a sharp pain in his mind. The next moment, he lost consciousness and fell into a boundless abyss. Right in front of everyone, the three-legged golden crow was killed by a single arrow from Su Zimo's spellbreaker bow. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Right then, arrows tore through the air one after another in an endless stream. It was chilling to hear in this battlefield. The living beings of the 10,000 races raised their heads and opened their mouths. Their eyes were widened in shock, and they were so scared that they could not speak. In midair, the powerful figure with a torrential aura pulled the spellbreaker bow consecutively and shot out more than 100 dermic power arrows in the span of a few breaths. Even the young masters of the primordial races had to focus against a single dermic power arrow. More than 100 dermic power arrows descended from the skies like rain. What a shocking scene. The entire void seemed to have been penetrated by the 100 arrows. Boom. A Protoss who was chasing after a Snowdrift Valley cultivator was pierced in the chest by a dermic power arrow and fell to the ground with his chest exploding. Exclamation point. Another Rakshasa who was chasing after a mighty figure of Shura sect wanted to dodge, but it was too late. His head was pierced by an arrow and he was nailed to a stone pillar in the distance, dead. The arrow rain descended, and the experts of the Witch, Rakshasa, Heavenly Eye and Protoss that were surrounding Monkey and the others fell in droves. Not only were the dermic power arrows terrifying, their speed was shocking and they were extremely accurate. Every single arrow could take down at least one expert of the primordial races. That lethality was almost devastating for the primordial 6 races. The 100 dermic power arrows killed far more than 100 experts of the primordial races. Some of the dermic power arrows could penetrate 3 to 4 or even 5 primordial races and kill them on the spot. In just a few breaths, more than 200 experts of the primordial races had fallen. There were even more severely injured. The crowd was shocked. The living beings of the 10,000 races were shocked. The experts of the primordial 6 races were scared pale. Let's see who dares to move. Su Zimo stood in midair with the spellbreaker bow in hand. His gaze was like lightning as he surveyed his surroundings like an unparalleled god and suddenly hollered. His voice exploded like thunder in the ears of the experts of the primordial races. The experts of the primordial 6 races shuddered in fear. Many primordial races looked at the figure in midair with deep wariness and fear in their eyes. A rain of arrows stunned the experts of the primordial 6 races on the spot. None of the primordial races dared to move again. Araki Takashi. When some cultivators saw that, they felt their hearts stir and tears brimmed in their eyes as they could not help but shout. Araki Takashi! Araki Takashi! Countless cultivators roared loudly with bloodshot eyes and their voices shook the 9 heavens. Ever since they came to participate in the convention of 10,000 races, they had suffered too much injustice, grievance and bullying. They watched helplessly as their fellow disciples were killed by the primordial races. They watched as their patriarch died in the hands of the primordial races but did not dare to step forward. They watched as the primordial races were arrogant and condescending, but no one stood out to fight against them. And all the anger, grievance, and unwillingness had been vented out in that instant. So what if they were from the primordial races? It was as Ji Qingtian had said, Araki Takashi killed the primordial races like dogs. The palace master of Enigma Palace stood out with an agitated expression and bowed deeply in the direction of Su Zimo, saying loudly, Fellow Taoist Araki Takashi, if there's a next time, I'm willing to hand over the spellbreaker bow personally. You're the only one who's worthy of that ancient unique treasure. It was only at this moment that his grudge against Su Zimo for snatching the spellbreaker bow dissipated. Chapter 1566. What sort of status was the palatial lord of Enigma Palace? Although their cultivation realms were the same, there was a huge difference in their statuses. The bow of the palatial lord of Enigma Palace was extremely important. Right then, the patriarch of Snowdrift Valley dragged his severely injured body and bowed towards Araki Takashi. Thank you for your help, fellow Taoist Araki Takashi. Then, the leader of the Flying Feather sect, the abbot of the Burning Lamp Temple, and the leaders of the 4 unorthodox groups, all the renowned cultivators in the world of cultivators, stood out. Thank you, Araki Takashi. Many cultivators shouted in unison. That was a heartfelt gratitude from everyone. That was because if not for Araki Takashi's arrow rain, countless cultivators and fellow disciples would have died among them. Most importantly, Araki Takashi's appearance had protected the final dignity of the human race. At that moment, the eyes of many cultivators turned moist. They could vaguely see the supreme might of the ancient emperors in Araki Takashi. Right then, a cultivator said softly, "The emperors are not here, but I'm here." Many cultivators knew that this was what Su-Zimo, who was only a perfected Jin Dan, said to the Protoss and the Rakshasa race back in Myriad Phenomenon City. Later on, when it spread into the cultivation world, it was mocked by the major sects and factions. It was only now that everyone knew that Araki Takashi was the only one who could say such words. Araki Takashi was the only one who was worthy of being compared to the ancient emperors. Araki Takashi was able to intimidate the primordial 6 races single-handedly with his bow. This was a scene that would definitely be recorded in history. Many cultivators were emotional. The young masters of the primordial 6 races had varying expressions as well. Among them, Yu Luosha was most likely the one with the most complicated emotions. Initially, she did not take Qinglian's true body and the Dharma-dispersing bow seriously. In her mind, this was only one of Araki Takashi's doppelgangers. With her speed, she could easily avoid the attack of the Spellbreaker bow. Just now, however, this scene had completely overturned her thoughts. If those hundreds of magic power arrows were to shoot towards her, she would definitely not be able to escape even if she grew a few pairs of wings. Could it be that I cannot defeat this evil person's clone? Yu Luocha looked at the figure in the air, a trace of confusion flashing across her eyes. The huge battlefield was completely silent. The experts of the primordial races had solemn expressions. They became even more cautious and waited for an opportunity to act. At this moment, Goddess Xiaoxiang glanced sideways at the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect who was not far away. A cold glint flashed across her eyes. The 7th Crown Prince turned his gaze and looked at the Pengle Island's island master who was not far away. The sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect shuddered and suddenly stood up, shouting, "Araki Takashi, today is the convention of the myriad races. How can the convention of the myriad races continue if you're so savage and start a massacre? If the peace talks with the primordial 6 races fail because of you, you'll be the sinner of the human race. F***ck your mother." Little Fatty could not hold it in any longer and cursed loudly. The Valley Master of Snowdrift Valley said coldly as well, "Let me ask your Heavenly Dipper sect whether it was the primordial races that started a massacre or Araki Takashi that started a massacre in today's battle. Did more primordial races die or did more humans die?" The sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect was rendered speechless. The Pengle Island's island master stood up and said in a deep voice, "It's normal for there to be some conflicts and fights when the 10,000 races gather. Now that everyone has stopped, we can sit down and talk again. Do we have to talk just because you say so?" Su-Zimo glanced sideways at the Pengle Island's island master and asked instead. The Pengle Island's island master's heart seemed to have stopped beating when he was glanced at by Su-Zimo. A chill ran down his spine and he shut his mouth immediately. Earlier on, he had truly sensed the aura of death. If he dared to say another word, he was certain that Araki Takashi would definitely attack and kill him on the spot. Right then, Chaos Essence Sect's Patriarch stood up and said, "Araki Takashi, it's understandable that you have a feud with the primordial 6 races. However, this is the convention of the myriad races. Don't just care about your personal grudges and vent your emotions and implicate the entire human race. What nonsense! You're distorting the truth." The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace hollered. The Patriarch of Sword Sect said slowly as well, "If the young masters of the primordial races want to negotiate now, I think it's appropriate for Araki Takashi to stop and sit down for a discussion." Just now, Chaos Essence Sect and Sword Sect had yet to express their stance. Although they did not stand on the side of the primordial 6 races, they did not have the courage to stand out and fight the primordial races. However, the appearance of Araki Takashi made the patriarch of the 2 sects unable to sit still. Chaos Essence sect said that Araki Takashi was only concerned about his personal grudges. Actually, the reason why the two patriarch sects expressed their stance was because of their personal grudges with Araki Takashi. Suzumo raised his brow and asked instead, "Who do you guys think you are to represent the human race?" "Araki Takashi." The Zephyr Thunder Palace's master hollered, "Don't be insolent. As the patriarch of the immortal sects, how can we not represent the human race? The human race is being massacred by the primordial 6 races, and the few of you are just sitting there and watching indifferently. Are you even worthy of being called humans? How can you represent the human race when you're not even humans?" The moment he said that, the faces of Chaos Essence sect, Sword sect, and the other patriarch sects flushed red, and they felt their faces burning. That's right. How are you worthy of being called an immortal sect with that bit of guts? It's truly humiliating for cultivators of Soaring Feather sect to be on the same side as them and be ranked as immortal sects. Cultivators of Sword sect would rather die than submit and advance with indomitable will. The current Sword sect has long lost the sharpness of the sword cultivators of the ancient era. What a disgrace to our patriarchs. Many cultivators who survived the battle just now sneered. When they heard those voices, Chaos Essence sect, Sword sect, and the other patriarch sects were even more embarrassed, and their faces turned ashen. The young masters of the primordial races sneered in midair and did not attack, merely watching the show from the side. It would be most advantageous for them if the human race started fighting internally first. Araki Takashi, don't spout nonsense. Chaos Essence sect's patriarch sects grit his teeth. As the patriarch of the immortal sects, Fufu. Before Chaos Essence sect's patriarch sects could finish, he was interrupted by Suzumo's cold laughter. "Let me tell you." Suzumo's gaze landed on Sword sect, Chaos Essence sect, Heavenly Dipper sect, and the other immortal and fiend sects as he said slowly, "The current cultivation world is not your world, and you guys can't make the decision. Under your leadership, the human race will only be bullied and suppressed. Today, I'll make the decision in Enigma Palace. Fellow Taoists, are you willing to follow me today and listen to my orders?" Suzumo surveyed his surroundings and asked loudly. "We're willing." Many cultivators roared excitedly. Sword sect, Chaos Essence sect, and the other patriarch sects were enraged. "All right." Suzumo's gaze landed on the patriarch sects and the others as he said coldly, "Kill anyone who's indignant." With that said, Suzumo pulled the bowstring of the spirit-dispersing bow. Buzz. The bowstring trembled with a chilling killing intent. Sword sect, Chaos Essence sect, Heavenly Dipper sect, and the other patriarch sects shut their mouths instantly. They represented the strongest factions in the cultivation world. But now, they were completely suppressed by the aura of a single person. Araki Takashi had ascended. Chapter 1567. Initially, the experts of the primordial races watched coldly from the sidelines, waiting for the humans to fight internally so that they could find an opportunity to kill Araki Takashi. However, to think that Araki Takashi would stun all the major sects and factions in the blink of an eye. "Araki Takashi, don't you humans want to negotiate with the primordial 6 races?" Young Master Guewu suddenly said coldly. Actually, the primordial 6 races had never thought of negotiating with the human race. They did not take the human race seriously at all. Dragons did not coexist with snakes. Why would a god negotiate with ants? However, at that moment, young Master Guewu's words were sinister. He wanted to give the cultivators an illusion. The primordial 6 races wanted to negotiate. However, this was the result of Araki Takashi. In that case, the conflict between the human race would definitely reappear and even intensify. True enough. Some cultivators of Chaos Essence sect and Sword sect were tempted when young Master Guewu said that. Someone said, "It's good if we can negotiate properly and kill less." That's right. If the human race fights with the primordial 6 races, both sides will only suffer. Why bother? Araki Takashi is too rash and shows off his edge. There might not be a good outcome for him to lead the human race. Many cultivators whispered. The young masters of the primordial races were secretly delighted. Fufu. Su Zimo sneered. Do you guys really think that the primordial 6 races want to negotiate? Let me tell you, negotiations are never done through negotiation. You have to kill. That's right. Right then, a soft holler sounded from afar. A cultivator in scarlet robes strode over in huge strides. His body seemed to be burning with raging flames, and he had a menacing aura with a burning gaze. Grandmaster Extreme Fire. The cultivators of 100 Refinement sect were overjoyed as they shouted. It was none other than Extreme Fire. Beside Extreme Fire was a black-robed young man with a cold expression. He was expressionless and moved nimbly, as though he could disappear into the darkness at any moment. The monkey and the others were delighted when they saw the black-robed young man. Whoa! The monkey pounded its chest and roared. Linghu was also grinning from ear to ear. His smile pulled at his wound, and he sucked in a cold breath. Even if it hurt, he was still extremely happy. Night Spirit. Xiaoning looked at the black-robed youth in disbelief and exclaimed softly. Tears welled up in her eyes and her vision gradually blurred. Sorry, I'm late. The black-robed young man came to Xiaoning's side and said softly with an apologetic expression. It's fine. It's good that you're back. Ning cries and smiles at the same time. Linghu grumbled from the side. This 5 really values his lover over his friends. I'm afraid he's forgotten all about us after all these years. Golden Lion and the others also pretended to sigh. Night Spirit nodded to Xiaoning before walking towards Monkey and the others. A rare smile appeared on his cold face. You guys aren't dead yet and you still have the strength to joke with me? Haha. Monkey laughed out loud. He reached out and thumped Night Spirit's chest. Our lives are tough. On the other side, Extreme Fire closed in and looked at the many cultivators present, saying in a deep voice, Zimo is right. The strong won't negotiate with the weak. If you want to negotiate, you have to become an expert first. A cultivator shouted, Araki Takashi, you're right. Those primordial races said earlier on that we humans are ants and have no right to negotiate with them. No right? Su Zimo smiled gently. It's fine. Today I, Araki Takashi, will lead all of you to kill for the human race. All right. Many cultivators felt their blood boil as they shouted, Kill for the right. Right then, 1,000 cultivators arrived from not far away. Among them were the Dharma Daojun, conjoint body mighty figures and half-martial ancestor experts. The cultivators were dressed differently and were of different races. They did not look like they were from the same sect and did not have any obvious symbols. However, all of them carried a saber on their backs. It had been many years since so many saber cultivators, including mighty figures and half-martial ancestors of the saber, had appeared in Tianhuang mainland. The sword sect patriarch narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, as though he had thought of something, Divine Phoenix Island. The patriarch nodded one after another. Only Divine Phoenix Island could possess so many powerful saber cultivators. As one of the 2 islands, Divine Phoenix Island was naturally not to be underestimated. Penglai Island, one of the 2 islands, was already on the side of the primordial 6 races. Many cultivators did not know which side Divine Phoenix Island would stand on right now. Or would they choose not to help either side like Sword Sect, Chaos Essence Sect and the other immortal sects? Among the cultivators, Su Zimo was the only one who was calm. Divine Phoenix Island is here to help Araki Takashi. Before the Divine Phoenix Island cultivators arrived, the island lord of Divine Phoenix Island shouted. The Dragon Phoenix True Body was the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. Divine Phoenix Island would naturally stand on Su Zimo's side. The cultivators were invigorated. The addition of Divine Phoenix Island had undoubtedly increased their strength significantly. The primordial races frowned secretly. The current situation was somewhat out of their control. Even if they could win this battle, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. The primordial races would definitely suffer heavy losses. The young masters of the primordial races had not expected the human race to release such a powerful will after Araki Takashi's descent. Of course, those cultivators were not much of a threat to the primordial races. The most troublesome one was Araki Takashi. Young Master Gewu was still unwilling to give up and tried to sow discord between the various major sections. He smiled gently and said, "Araki Takashi, Patriarch, do you really not want to talk to us?" The convention of the myriad races this time round was organized by Enigma Palace. "Do you really want this grand event to turn into a shura where blood flows like rivers? It's fine if you want to negotiate," Su Zimo nodded. "However, the prerequisite is that the primordial races have to be sincere enough." "No problem." Young Master Guiwu laughed. "Whatever sincerity Araki Takashi wants, the primordial 6 races will definitely satisfy it with all our might. Treasures, beauties, cultivation techniques, secret skills, you can take your pick. I want your lives." Su Zimo said word by word. The smile on young Master Guiwu's face froze instantly. The expressions of the young masters of the primordial races darkened. Chapter 1568. Extreme Fire, Night Spirit, the cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island and many other cultivators who could still fight charged into the battlefield once more. But this time round, all the cultivators took the initiative to counterattack with a torrential aura. The experts of the primordial races showed signs of defeat when they were attacked by the cultivators. It was not that the experts of the primordial races could not defeat the cultivators. Just now, after Su Zimo shot out a large wave of arrows, the experts of the primordial races became fearful. They did not dare to fight with all their might against the cultivators at all. Most of their attention was focused on Su Zimo and they were tense. They were afraid that Su Zimo would pull the spirit eradication bow again and send down a rain of arrows. With that, the people of the primordial races could not unleash their combat strength at all. They were gradually pushed back by the continuous attacks of the cultivators. When they saw that, the cultivators fought even more valiantly and their auras surged. After the baptism of Kunlun ruins, Extreme Fire's combat strength increased exponentially. He charged at the front and attacked consecutively, releasing an extremely terrifying killing power. Even if he was fighting against 10 alone, Extreme Fire could remain undefeated and even vaguely had the upper hand. Night Spirit's figure disappeared into the darkness like a ghost and flashed from time to time. Each time he attacked, a primordial race member would definitely die. Even the Rakshasa race with the fastest movement techniques could not escape the pursuit of Night Spirit. The Golden Lion sighed as he healed. "After so many years, Fifth Brother is still so ferocious." A look of confusion flashed through Linghu's eyes as he mumbled, "Strange, why do I feel that Fifth's strength hasn't increased as much as I imagined?" "That's right," Qing Qing frowned as well. The 3 of them should have rushed over together. However, Fifth Brother was a little late. It's normal that Extreme Fire's speed can't compare to First Brother's. Fifth Brother's movement technique shouldn't be that far behind, right? Monkey said, "He might be holding back. Look, Fifth Brother hasn't even transformed into his true form. Forget it, there's no need to bother about that. Let's heal up quickly and fight alongside Fifth Brother." "Alright." The brothers nodded in agreement and did not think too much about it. In midair, looking at the young masters of the primordial races charging over, Su Zimo sneered in his heart. If it was a few decades ago, his primordial spirit would have become extremely weak after shooting hundreds of arrows with the spell-breaking bow. However, he had already become a half-martial ancestor, and the Fortune Lotus platform in his Sea of Consciousness was also infinitely close to rank 8. The black-haired primordial spirit nurtured the Creation Lotus platform while the Creation Lotus platform constantly nourished the black-haired primordial spirit. Even though he had shot out hundreds of dermic power arrows, the power of Su Zimo's essence spirit was still extremely powerful and condensed. Su Zimo drew his lawbreaker bow again. This time round, he was prepared to kill all the young masters of the primordial races. Suddenly, not far away, young Master Guiwu smirked and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Deicide curse. A faint fluctuation of divine sense spread out, almost undetectable. Su Zimo's spiritual sense was powerful, and he immediately sensed the danger. However, the curse of the witch race was way too treacherous. Suddenly, an extremely evil power appeared out of thin air in Su Zimo's sea of consciousness. It rapidly condensed into a dark green storm that swept towards the black-haired essence spirit. If it was any other cultivator, it would be difficult for them to defend against such a strange essence spirit attack. However, Su Zimo's sea of consciousness was guarded by a treasure like the creation lotus platform. 63 Qinglian seeds spewed out and transformed into green streaks of light that collided with the dark green storm. Although the storm was evil and powerful, it could not defend against the sharpness of the Qinglian seeds. In the blink of an eye, it was riddled with holes by the 63 Qinglian seeds, and its power dissipating into Su Zimo's sea of consciousness before long. After that collision, the light of the 63 Qinglian seeds dimmed significantly as well. However, once they returned to the creation lotus platform, the lotus platform would continue to nourish them, and the power of the Qinglian seeds would recover before long. You've got some tricks up your sleeves indeed. The ghost witch young master narrowed his gaze slightly. Over the years, countless human prodigies had died under his god-slaying curse. Now that he was up against Su Zimo, it was dispelled with ease. At the same time, the 7th and 10th princes had already closed in and extended their sharp claws, sealing off Su Zimo's escape routes. Su Zimo had just engaged in an essence spirit clash with the ghost witch young master. Although he was fine, he was slightly delayed. In his haste, he could only shoot out an arrow that collided with the visual technique released by the remnant eye with a deafening sound. It was already too late for him to draw his spirit-dispersing bow and shoot out a second arrow. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged, and he reacted extremely quickly. Using the spirit-dispersing bow as a saber and the bowstring as a blade, he swung it in reverse and slashed at the 10th prince. At the same time, he clenched his other hand into a fist and punched towards the 7th prince's golden crow feet. Exclamation point! A flash of blood appeared in midair. A gigantic and menacing golden crow foot was severed by the spirit-dispersing bow. The 10th prince shrieked tragically and transformed into a streak of golden light that fled. Even though the spirit-dispersing bow was an ancient unique treasure, its bowstring was extremely sharp as well. The fact that Su Zimo used the spirit-dispersing bow as a saber was a flash of inspiration. Although it seemed like a casual slash, it released the extremely murderous saber intent of the Shura. The combination of the Shura saber intent and the spirit-dispersing bow severed one of the golden crow feet of the 10th prince. Of course, that was not the 10th prince's third foot. The 10th prince fled into the distance, and his blood chi surged. In the blink of an eye, the severed golden crow feet grew back. Boom! At the same time, Su Zimo's fist collided with the golden crow feet of the 7th prince. The two of them clashed head-on. His blood chi surged and was raised to the tsunami blood realm instantly. The 7th prince's expression changed greatly as he felt a terrifying power surge into his body through his golden crow feet. Even the blood essence of a Mahayana patriarch could not taint her. How could this be? How could this be? The blood vine race's essence spirit had already been devoured by the drop of blood essence, and his life force was exhausted. However, Qinglian's true body was still filled with boundless life force and was safe and sound. The essence spirit of the blood vine race could only dissipate into the world with endless indignance and resentment. The creation Qinglian is indeed a supreme treasure of the universe. The young master Gui Wu murmured softly. Suddenly, the remnant eye spoke. However, that drop of blood essence of the blood vine race's patriarch isn't completely useless. At the very least, it can cripple the Dharma-breaking bow temporarily. Although the remnant eye did not have eyes, it was as though it could see everything. The Dharma-breaking bow in Su Zimo's hands was stained with the blood essence of the blood vine race's patriarch, and its light dimmed. Although it was not completely crippled, it was useless for the time being. Without that ancient unique treasure, let's see what else Araki Takashi has up his sleeves. The 7th prince said hatefully. In that short period of time, the shattered bones on the golden crow's feet had recovered. Yu Luocha frowned slightly and looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away. For some reason, her first reaction was not joy when she saw Su Zimo's Dharma-breaking bow being crippled. Instead, she was worried. What's wrong with me? Yu Luocha snapped out of her daze immediately and was annoyed internally. This person before me is only the clone of that evil person. Why am I worried about him? With an indifferent expression, Su Zimo kept the Dharma-breaking bow in his storage bag. Right then, a cry of pain sounded from midair not far away. Snap! In midair, Goddess Xiaoxiang's body shone with divine light and she was domineering with a torrential aura, forcing Demoness Ji to retreat with nowhere to run. A single punch landed on Demoness Ji's arm and her entire arm was broken. Demoness, Goddess Xiaoxiang said coldly, who asked you to be so good-looking? You deserve to die. Goddess Xiaoxiang strode forward and extended her palm. Sharp fingernails extended from her fingers as she scratched towards Demoness Ji's face. If she were to hit, not only would Demoness Ji's face be destroyed, even her essence spirit would be ripped out by Goddess Xiaoxiang. All of a sudden, the sound of wind and thunder echoed. Xiaoxiang, watch out. Immediately after, the warnings of young Master Ge Wu, Remnant I, and the others sounded. Goddess Xiaoxiang's heart skipped a beat. She merely felt her vision blur and a person appeared in front of Demoness Ji. It was a Rocky Takashi who was rampaging earlier on. The two of them were extremely close. The moment Su Zimo stood in front of Demoness Ji, Goddess Xiaoxiang's palm had already descended. Araki Takashi, you must have a death wish. Divine Lady Xiaoxiang scoffed coldly and had no intention of stopping. She clawed at Su Zimo's face, wanting to create a few bloody holes on his face. Goddess Xiaoxiang was confident of that. Given her blood chi and physique, no one could match her in melee combat. You're the one who has a death wish. Su Zimo hollered and his eyes shone brightly as his blood chi surged. Against Goddess Xiaoxiang's incoming palm, he did not dodge at all. Instead, he flipped his palm and slapped down on Goddess Xiaoxiang's head. The aura released by that palm was way too strong. Goddess Xiaoxiang felt her chest tighten against the palm and her blood chi was obstructed. She felt suffocated. Goddess Xiaoxiang's expression changed. Was he trying to exchange a life for a life with an internecine outcome? Goddess Xiaoxiang was confident that she could kill Su Zimo with a single palm strike. However, she was not confident that she could escape unscathed from Su Zimo's palm strike. My status is so noble, how can I exchange my life with this ant? In a flash, Goddess Xiaoxiang made her choice and retracted her palm, wanting to block Su Zimo's palm strike before counterattacking. However, she would be completely defeated if she retreated. Chapter 1570. Goddess Xiaoxiang retracted her palm and raised her arms. The blood chi in her body surged and golden light filled the air as she blocked Su Zimo's palm. Boom! Su Zimo's palm descended and suppressed Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms. Goddess Xiaoxiang's expression changed drastically. Her arms were numb from Su Zimo's palm strike. This palm strike had nearly knocked her into a daze. One had to know that even her Tao companion, the Emperor Heaven Divine Son, could not beat her to such an extent in melee combat. However, Su Zimo did not stop in his tracks. He strode forward and charged towards Goddess Xiaoxiang like a galloping divine steed. A ferocious aura burst out from it. That collision was even more ferocious and invincible than the palm strike just now. Goddess Xiaoxiang shrieked and channeled her blood chi to the maximum. An incomparably powerful bloodline phenomenon appeared beneath her. An ancient and mysterious pyramid appeared, filled with divine light. Beneath the pyramid were the billions of living beings who were kneeling and praying. At the same time, the 7th and 10th princes chased after him again. This time, young Master Ge Wu waved his staff and dark green mist appeared in midair. It quickly condensed into a spear and pierced towards Su Zimo. Curse spear! Now that the spellbreaker bow was destroyed, young Master Ge Wu no longer had any reservations. Eye of the Hurricane. Remnant I also made a hand seal and condensed a spell. With a wave of his hands, a hurricane was formed. However, the true threat of this hurricane was not the powerful hurricane itself, but the eye of the hurricane in the middle of the hurricane. The eye of the hurricane was the peak of the power of that dermic art. Yu Luosha flapped her wings and charged toward Su Zimo as well. However, compared to the other young masters of the primordial races, her attack was clearly not too aggressive. Boom! Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid. His eyes were fixed on Goddess Xiaoxiang as he channeled his blood qi to the limit and his aura reached its peak. A gigantic Qinglian soared into the skies as though it was about to break through the firmaments. The jade-green Qinglian was crystal clear and its lotus leaves covered the skies. Under everyone's gazes, the flower bud at the top of Qinglian bloomed silently and emitted rays of light. Qinglian swayed. Ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in the void. They were like ripples on the surface of the water, spreading out in all directions. Rumble! Goddess Xiaoxiang's bloodline phenomenon was the first to bear the brunt. If this was a few decades ago, her bloodline phenomenon might have been able to hold on for a moment. But now, under the aura of a peak grade 7 creation green lotus, even the pyramid of the divine race could not withstand it. Cracks appeared on the body of the tower, and it collapsed in an instant. Countless stones and gravel rolled down. The billions of living beings below were scattered in all directions. The bloodline phenomenon dissipated as well. Goddess Xiaoxiang's face was pale. The collapse of her bloodline phenomenon naturally affected her flesh and blood. Even though she suppressed it forcefully, blood still flowed from the corner of her lips. In midair, the cursed spear that howled over was shattered by the ripples in the void before it could reach the creation Qinglian. The hurricane did not fight against the ripples in midair for long before it dissipated. The eye of the hurricane dissipated as well. Retreat! The 7th Crown Prince and the 10th Crown Prince had just arrived when they saw a series of ripples rippling towards them. 7th Crown Prince was the fastest to react. Sensing the terrifying power contained within the ripples, he transformed into a streak of golden light and retreated at an even faster speed. As for 10th Crown Prince, he was slightly slower and was slightly affected by the ripples. One of his golden wings was snapped by the ripples. 10th Crown Prince shrieked and retreated hurriedly. Naturally, Yu Luosha would not charge forward foolishly and had retreated long ago. Su Zimo's bloodline phenomenon was released and defended against the attacks of the young masters of the primordial races. Furthermore, there was still strength left. Boom! Accompanied by the might of his bloodline phenomenon, Su Zimo charged towards Goddess Xiaoxiang. The storage ring on Goddess Xiaoxiang's finger flashed, and a huge golden shield appeared. It stopped in midair and blocked in front of her. The killing intent in Su Zimo's eyes intensified when he saw the gigantic golden shield. Well, Su Zimo said coldly, since you already have this gigantic golden shield, there's even more reason for me to not let you live. Su Zimo had interacted with Protoss back in the Jindan realm. However, those Jindan realm Protoss used storage bags and were no different from the cultivators of Tianhuang mainland. In the primordial era, most of the Protoss were killed by the gods in the God-slaying canyon. However, a portion of them were left behind in Tianhuang mainland. Over the years, that portion of Protoss recuperated and developed. However, weapons and treasures such as the storage rings and gigantic golden shields of the Protoss were made from materials unique to the mainland of gods and could not be forged in Tianhuang mainland. Therefore, the storage rings and gigantic golden shields were still those brought over from the primordial era and were rare. In other words, not all members of the God clan would possess a storage ring. Divine race members who could wear storage rings were bound to be top powerhouses among the divine race. But now, not only did Goddess Xiaoxiang have a storage ring, she even had a gigantic golden shield. This meant that she must know the background of the Protoss. Those thoughts flashed through his mind. Boom! Even when he saw the gigantic golden shield, Su Zimo had no intention of stopping and collided with it with a deafening bang. Goddess Xiaoxiang shuddered and spat out a mouthful of blood. A sharp pain came from her arms and she could not even hold onto the gigantic golden shield. Su Zimo sent her flying with the help of his bloodline phenomenon. Qinglian's phenomenon dissipated as a result. Goddess Xiaoxiang's expression dimmed as she stumbled backwards. However, Su Zimo had no intention of letting her off. He strode forward and reached out, grabbing Goddess Xiaoxiang's shoulders and bending his knees. This time, he collided heavily with Goddess Xiaoxiang's chest. Goddess Xiaoxiang's sternum shattered. At the same time, Su Zimo's fingernails popped out like swords and pierced through the flesh of Goddess Xiaoxiang's shoulders, tearing outwards. Under the intertwining of the two forces, Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms were torn off by Su Zimo. Ah! Goddess Xiaoxiang shrieked and almost fainted from the pain. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked. At that moment, Goddess Xiaoxiang no longer had the high and mighty appearance of a goddess. She was miserable and struggled on the verge of death, no different from the cultivators on the battlefield. Araki Takashi attacked and pulled Goddess Xiaoxiang down from the altar. These two arms are to avenge her. Su Zimo tossed Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms to the ground casually and said with a murderous aura, "Since you severed one of her arms, I'll cripple both of yours." Although Su Zimo did not say who she was, all the living beings present knew that she was the pure maiden of the fiend sex. Demoness Ji stood not far behind Su Zimo and looked at the man who had just saved her. Her beautiful eyes rippled with emotions that others could not understand. However, before long, a hint of loneliness flashed through her face and she sighed gently. Chapter 1571. Araki Takashi, don't be too smug. Goddess Xiaoxiang channeled her blood essence to reform her flesh and blood to regrow her arms. At the same time, she said hatefully, "My Dao partner, Huang Tian, will be here soon. Huang Tian will make you pay 100 times for what you did to me." "Is that so?" Su Zimo sneered. "Then I'm afraid you're going to be disappointed. Your Huang Tian is already dead. I can see that you two are deeply in love, so I'll fulfill your wish and send you on your way to reunite with him." Tearing off Goddess Xiaoxiang's arms was just to avenge Demoness Ji. What Su Zimo wanted was Goddess Xiaoxiang's life. "What did you say?" Goddess Xiaoxiang's body trembled as her blood essence fluctuated. Her arms that had yet to reform almost collapsed. "Impossible!" Goddess Xiaoxiang screamed and glared at Su Zimo. "Huang Tian can't be dead. No one of the same cultivation level can suppress him." Goddess Xiaoxiang suddenly thought of something. Huang Tian Shenxi still had a great divine power talisman on him. She said in a deep voice, "Even a Mahayana patriarch can't kill Huang Tian. Moreover, Huang Tian is a Shenxi. I don't believe that anyone in the world would be so bold as to kill a Shenxi." Goddess Xiaoxiang condensed her arms and calmed down in the blink of an eye. She sneered, "Araki Takashi, you want to make up such a big lie to attack my Dao heart? Dream on. In my opinion, your words are full of loopholes." The more Goddess Xiaoxiang thought about it, the more she felt that her speculation was right. Firstly, it was a secret that the Huang Tian Shenxi went to the barbarian race. The other races didn't know about it. Secondly, the Huang Tian Shenxi was very powerful. He had a great divine power talisman and 3 ancestral gods protecting him. Who could kill him? The barbarian race? Lastly, the barbarian race did have the ability to do so. However, the barbarian race had no reason or need to do so. Even if they didn't join forces with the Protoss, the barbarian race wouldn't kill the Huang Tian Shenxi and become enemies with the Protoss. Thinking of this, Goddess Xiaoxiang was even more certain of her speculation. Su Zimo looked at the confident Goddess Xiaoxiang and did not want to argue with her. He said indifferently, "You think too much. Why should I attack your Dao heart? I want your life." Before he finished speaking, Su Zimo attacked again. Su Zimo's figure flickered as he charged towards Goddess Xiaoxiang. His speed was extremely fast, and he arrived in front of her in the blink of an eye. Suddenly, Goddess Xiaoxiang's eyes were covered in a layer of golden light, and 2 beams of godly light shot out. God's eye technique. The distance between the two of them was too close. Coupled with the instantaneous use of his ocular technique, he almost instantly appeared in front of Su Zimo. However, the strange thing was that a beam of green light flew out from Su Zimo's glabella when Goddess Xiaoxiang unleashed her God's eye technique. The Lotus Platform of Creation. The Creation Lotus Platform spun and flew out of the sea of consciousness, colliding with the 2 divine lights. Boom! The divine lights shattered and dissipated into nothingness. No matter how strong the god's eye was, it could not penetrate the creation lotus platform. In the eyes of most living beings of the 10,000 races, this short exchange did not seem like anything special. It was as though it was just an ordinary clash. However, the young masters of the primordial races were secretly speechless with shock in their eyes. That was because the young masters of the primordial races could clearly see the game that happened during this short exchange. If goddess Xiao Xiang had not released her ocular technique, Araki Takashi would have summoned the creation Qinglian. If that was the case, it would have been too late. The true situation was that Araki Takashi seemed to have predicted goddess Xiao Xiang's counterattack and summoned the creation Qinglian to block in front of him. Thereafter, he released his god's eye and collided with the creation Qinglian. That was the reason why just now happened. Araki Takashi summoned the creation lotus platform and blocked goddess Xiao Xiang's god's eye almost perfectly. This ability to predict was a talent and spirit perception that might not be honed even after experiencing countless life and death battles. Furthermore, this required immense courage and guts. That was because if his prediction was wrong, there was a high chance that Araki Takashi would be severely injured and fall into a disadvantage. But now, Araki Takashi's prediction was accurate and he guessed that goddess Xiao Xiang might use her god's eye technique to neutralize it. Instantly, goddess Xiao Xiang lost the initiative. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly as he suddenly opened his mouth and chanted 6 Sanskrit words. Buzz. Ma. Put. Put. At the same time, Su Zimo's hands changed rapidly and conjured 6 daeming dermic seals that suppressed goddess Xiao Xiang. Sush. Su Zimo's divine consciousness moved, and the creation Qinglian also smashed towards goddess Xiao Xiang's head at the same time. At that moment, Su Zimo unleashed an extremely terrifying attack that almost drowned goddess Xiao Xiang's body. Goddess Xiao Xiang's face turned pale. Under such an attack, not only was her blood qi weak, but her combat strength was also greatly reduced. Even if she was in peak condition, she might not be able to escape unscathed. Her ears were buzzing from the 6 daeming dermic seals. She barely managed to draw out a giant golden sword and blocked the creation lotus platform. But her power had dissipated and she could no longer condense it. Moreover, there were still 6 daeming dermic seals suppressing her. Goddess Xiao Xiang felt suffocated. She didn't have time to think. When she took out the giant golden sword from her storage ring, she also took out a talisman. That was a protective talisman that her mother had left for her. As long as it was torn apart, it could even block the full-powered attack of an early-stage Mahayana realm patriarch. Goddess Xiao Xiang tore the talisman into pieces without hesitation. Rays of dazzling golden light shot out from her palms and quickly formed a barrier around her body. The moment the barrier was formed, the lotus platform of creation came crashing down. 6 daeming dermic seals descended at the same time. Boom! A deafening sound rang out. Under everyone's gaze, goddess Xiao Xiang's body was sent flying by the huge force. She rolled for more than 100 feet before landing heavily on the ground. Cough, cough. Goddess Xiao Xiang coughed lightly and couldn't help but laugh. Although she had lost miserably, she had survived because of the light barrier. As long as she was still alive, when the Imperial Sky God's child arrived, the two of them could work together and unleash the secret technique that they had cultivated together. Their combat strength would more than double. By then, it would be the death of Araki Takashi. Su Zimo looked at goddess Xiao Xiang, who was slowly getting up from the ground not far away. He frowned slightly and felt that it was a pity. It was a rare opportunity. He didn't manage to kill her and force her to use her trump card. Just now, although his attacks had caused the light barrier around goddess Xiao Xiang to tremble and dim, it was still intact. Even if he continued to chase after goddess Xiao Xiang, he wouldn't be able to find anything in a short period of time. With that thought, Su Zimo shifted his attention to the other young masters. Chapter 1572. The remaining 7th Prince, 10th Prince, young Master Gawu and Remnant I felt chills run down their spines. They felt chills run down their spines when they were targeted by Araki Takashi. Initially, They were filled with confidence that any one of them could kill Araki Takashi. But now that Ting Luo and the ninth prince were dead and goddess Xiaoxiang was defeated miserably, the few of them were not confident even if they joined forces. On the other side, the Yen Beichen, Monkey and the others rested for a moment before charging back into the battlefield. They caused an extremely tragic impact on the people of the primordial six races and caused immense casualties. If they could not determine a victor against Araki Takashi, they would not have the face to return to see the patriarch of the primordial races today. The gazes of young Master Gewu and seventh prince landed on the island master of Penglai Island, the sect master of Heavenly Dipper sect and the others. Although they did not say anything, there was a deep look in their eyes. Moreover, there was a ripple of divine sense voice transmission in the air. Remnant Eye turned slightly and faced the sect as well. However, Remnant Eye did not have eyes and his action did not attract Su Zimo's attention. Su Zimo's expression was cold as he sneered and glared at young Master Gewu who was not far away, striding over. "You want to kill me?" Young Master Gewu narrowed his eyes. "Let's fight in terms of essence spirits then." Skeleton curse. Young Master Gewu channeled his essence spirit and condensed his massive spirit consciousness, releasing an essence spirit secret skill instantly. At the same time, 7th Prince, 10th Prince and even Remnant Eye released their essence spirit secret skills one after another when they saw that. The release of essence spirit secret skills was enough to force the young masters of the primordial races into a corner. The first to descend was young Master Geowu's skeleton curse. The moment young Master Geowu released his essence spirit secret skill, a dark green skull with a torrential evil aura appeared in Su Zimo's consciousness out of thin air. Crack, crack. As though it was alive, the skull grinned sinisterly and glared at the black-haired essence spirit. It gritted its teeth continuously and let out a series of noises. Previously, the spirit-slaying curse released by young Master Geowu merely formed a storm. But this time, the Essence Soul Mystic technique had already condensed a skull with spirituality. Su Zimo's expression was ice-cold. What he was facing wasn't just the threat of this skull. In midair, the Essence Soul Mystic techniques released by the two Golden Crow Princes were two golden feathers. These two golden feathers were condensed from a tremendous amount of divine sense. They burned with blazing flames as they pierced toward Su Zimo. On the other side, the Remnant Eye also released an Essence Soul Mystic technique. His Essence Spirit secret skills were even more terrifying. It was a bloody eyeball. 4 Essence Spirit secret skills descended at the same time and charged toward Su Zimo. Yu Luocha frowned slightly and hesitated for a moment. In the end, she did not release her Essence Spirit Mystic skill. Yu Luocha lamented internally, "Those 4 Essence Spirit secret skills are enough to kill you. There's no need for me at all." Thinking of this, Yu Luocha felt a lot more at ease. She did not know that Wu Dao's true body had already left a martial spirit imprint on her essence spirit. Just now, if she were to release an Essence Soul Mystic technique against Qinglian's true body, the martial spirit imprint would sense it and burn. Before her Essence Soul Mystic technique could be condensed, her essence spirit would be burned to ashes first. On the battlefield, Su Zimo was surrounded by 4 Essence Soul Mystic skills. His eyes were calm and his mind was extremely calm. The black-haired Essence Spirit conjured an Essence Soul Mystic skill right away and lightning arcs coiled around its body in a bedazzling manner. Su Zimo touched his glabella gently and withdrew a long whip filled with lightning from his consciousness. The secret skill of the Thunder Emperor, Spirit Vanquishing Whip. Su Zimo swung the Spirit Vanquishing Whip and whipped it towards the Essence Soul Mystic skills of the two Golden Crow Princes. The collision of Essence Soul Mystic skills was silent. However, the power of thunder and golden flames contained within the mystic skills collided repeatedly with a series of crackling sounds. The black-haired essence spirit that was nurtured by Qinglian after cultivating to the half-martial ancestor realm and comprehending the profundities of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Daos, was way too condensed. Coupled with the secret skill of the Thunder Emperor, Su Zimo managed to take down the 2 burning golden feathers single-handedly. Of course, His spirit-vanquishing whip dissipated as a result and could not condense into form. The moment the black-haired essence spirit condensed the spirit-vanquishing whip, the creation lotus platform of the black-haired essence spirit in Su Zimo's consciousness shone with a green glow. These green rays of light quickly condensed in his sea of consciousness, forming a sharp green lotus sword that contained an extreme killing intent. There was no need for Su Zimo to control it. The moment the Qinglian sword sensed the evil power that intruded into his consciousness, it reacted immediately. The Qinglian sword slashed down viciously at the dark green skull. The skull possessed a sentience and seemed to be able to sense the terror of the Qinglian sword and wanted to dodge. However, its speed was far inferior to the Qinglian sword. Clang! The green lotus sword descended in an instant, slashing down on the skull. Groar! The skull let out a tragic cry, as though an evil fiend resided within and was severely injured. Clang! 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 The azure lotus sword emitted beams of multicolored light. These multicolored lights contained an extremely sharp sword energy that constantly slashed at the skulls. In the blink of an eye, the skull was riddled with holes. Boom! It didn't take long for the skull to dissipate. As for the Qinglian sword, it was tainted with dark green evil power as well. Its light dimmed significantly and it could not condense into form as it fell. The creation lotus platform retracted the Qinglian seeds and continued to nourish it. Before the battle in his consciousness subsided, Su Zimo had already turned around to face the remnant eye. In his consciousness, the Qinglian sword fought against the skull. As for the black-haired essence spirit, it hovered in midair in a lotus position with its palms pressed together. It had a dignified expression and chanted Sanskrit after Sanskrit. Chapter 1573. Su Zimo released several trump cards consecutively and defended against the encirclement of the young masters of the primordial four races. Furthermore, after the Rhylidermic seal suppressed the essence spirit secret skill of the Heavenly Eye race, it gathered an extremely terrifying power and flew towards the remnant eye. In Su Zimo's sea of consciousness, after the green lotus sword shattered the dark green skull, young Master Gewu let out a muffled groan and his body swayed. Su Zimo's body swayed and lightning flashed as he vanished from the spot. By the time he appeared again, he was already before young Master Gewu. Kill! Suddenly, Su Zimo shouted and released the secret skill, Thunderclap Kill. The two of them were extremely close and as a witch, young Master Gewu's physique and bloodline were ordinary. Thunderclap Kill dealt a huge blow to him. Exclamation point! Instantly, blood spewed out of young Master Gewu's ears, nostrils and mouth. His dark green eyes exploded from Su Zimo's shout and he was blinded on the spot, his vision turning dark. This was no longer bleeding from his 7 orifices. His 7 orifices were shattered. Young Master Gewu shuddered and his mind buzzed. His 5 senses were completely crippled by the shock of Thunderclap Kill. An injury as such was not fatal for a half-martial ancestor expert. However, young Master Gewu knew that his life was on the line. Illusory curse! Without hesitation, young Master Gewu channeled his essence spirit and released the life-saving secret skill of the witch race. Suddenly, a dark green glow shone on young Master Gewu's body and his body turned illusory, as though he was in another dimension. He was unfathomable, boundless and blurry. After Su Zimo released Thunderclap Kill, he slapped down. However, to think that the palm strike passed through young Master Gewu's blurry figure and landed in thin air. However, young Master Gewu was safe and sound. Su Zimo had seen this illusory curse before. Back then, an elder of the witch race released the secret curse. However, Night Spirit saw through it with a single glance and killed him. Su Zimo was not surprised. His gaze focused and his left eye shone with a strange black light, as though a pitch-black stone had appeared. Nether fluorescent stone. Su Zimo's left eye emitted a mysterious nether light. Initially, young Master Gewu's figure was untraceable. However, under the illumination of the gloomy light, there was nowhere to hide. Right now, Su Zimo's eye was no different from Night Spirit's eye. Bang! Su Zimo's palm descended once more and struck the top of young Master Gui Wu's head. Blood splattered. Right, Zimo, young Master Gui Wu was young Master Gui Wu's, young Master Gui Wu, young Master Gui Wu's, SLT young Master Gui Wu. This Araki Takashi is way too ruthless. He has another young master of the primordial race in his hands. That's right. Back in the Dao inheritance ground, I could tell. All the titular disciples wanted to join forces to kill him, but he killed all of them. Something's not right. Right then, a humanoid living being suddenly said, "Young Master Gui Wu isn't dead." The secret skill of the witch race is truly mysterious. He's not dead even now. Under the gaze of many cultivators, a figure in green robes could be seen staggering out of the blood mist. By the looks of it, it was young Master Gui Wu. The living beings of the myriad races were shocked. However, Su Zimo merely frowned slightly and understood before long. Back then, the young master of the witch race who died at Misty Peak cultivated a secret skill similar to a substitute puppet. At the most critical moment, he could die in his place once. That was equivalent to having an additional life. However, that was no threat to Su Zimo at all. At most, he would kill young Master Gui Wu again. In a flash, Su Zimo caught up to young Master Gui Wu in a few steps. Chapter 1574. An Opportunity. The eyes of the two princes of the Golden Crow race lit up. As members of the primordial races, they knew the Eye of Death too well. Among the same cultivation realm, no paragon or monster incarnate could escape unscathed from the Eye of Death. The 7th and 10th princes joined forces, and their movement techniques became even faster as they charged towards Su Zimo with all their might. "Why aren't you guys attacking?" Young Master Gui Wu noticed that as well and hollered. A vicious glint flashed through the eyes of the sect masters of Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect, who were initially tempted. Suddenly, they stood up and conjured hand seals, releasing two powerful dermic arts. Heavenly Solitary. Earth Split. The two sect masters hollered. Boundless dermic powers gathered in front of the two of them, and two gigantic and terrifying stars appeared. They were corporeal and were no different from the stars in the firmaments. When the two stars descended, living beings with weaker cultivation let out tragic cries. The Heavenly Solitary Star was one of the 36 Heavenly Dipper stars. The Earth Split was one of the 72 Malevolent Earth stars. The two sect masters used supreme secret skills to condense the two stars with dermic powers. The surface of the Heavenly Solitary Star was filled with rumbling Heavenly Dipper winds. The surface of the Malevolent Earth Star burned with raging Malevolent Earth flames. Go! The two sect masters were murderous as they hollered and shot the two dermic arts towards Su Zimo's figure. The two gigantic stars smashed towards Su Zimo with a shocking aura. Compared to the two gigantic stars, Su Zimo's figure was as insignificant as a speck of dust that could be crushed into dust with ease. "How dare you!" The Palace Lord of Enigma Palace was enraged when he saw that. However, he could not free himself from the fight with the experts of the primordial 6 races. The attacks of the two sect masters were sudden, and it was already too late for him to stop them by the time he realized it. Changes happened instantly on the battlefield. In the blink of an eye, Araki Takashi was surrounded from all sides and was in extreme danger. How shameless! To think that Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect would attack Araki Takashi from behind at this moment. Many cultivators were enraged when they saw this. "You're courting death." Su Zimo could feel the waves of dermic powers coming from behind him. His expression was cold as he spoke each word slowly. He did not look back. This was because the greatest threat to him was the Eye of Death in front of him. Yu Luocha frowned slightly as she watched the scene. A wave of worry involuntarily rose in her heart. She knew very well that once the Eye of Death opened, Su Zimo would definitely be heavily injured. Furthermore, the two princes of the Golden Crow tribe were about to arrive. The dermic arts of the two sect masters of the Heavenly Dipper sect and Malevolent Earth sect had already descended. Once young Master Gui Wu regained his senses, he would also make a move. There was no way Su Zimo could defend against such an attack. As if possessed, she subconsciously took half a step forward. She did not want to attack Su Zimo. Instead, she wanted to stop the two princes of the Golden Crow tribe and help Su Zimo resolve the danger before him as much as possible. Yu Luocha clearly knew that the green-robed cultivator before her was merely a clone of the evil man. However, for some reason she felt as though she was possessed. Not only did she not want to hurt the evil man, she did not even want to hurt his clone. In fact, in the depths of her heart, she wanted to help the evil man. Yu Luocha, what are you doing? At this moment, a cold voice sounded. Yu Luocha glanced sideways and caught sight of goddess Xiaoxiang, who was recuperating not far away. She narrowed her eyes and glared at Yu Luocha meaningfully. Yu Luocha panicked, as though all the secrets in the depths of her heart had been seen through by goddess Xiaoxiang. However, Yu Luocha composed herself before long and replied indifferently, "Nothing much. I just wanted to help." Goddess Xiaoxiang smirked and refused to give up, asking, "Do you want to deal with Araki Takashi or help Araki Takashi? What are you talking about? I don't understand." Yu Luocha replied without a change in expression. "Fufu." Goddess Xiaoxiang sneered. "Yu Luocha, just now, I've noticed something unusual about you. We were fighting against Araki Takashi, but you didn't do anything. After today's matter is over, you must give us an explanation. What's there to explain?" As the young master of a primordial race, Yu Luocha was not afraid of goddess Xiaoxiang at all. She sneered as well. "You guys are strong. I thought that it would be enough for you guys to attack. Who would have thought that you guys would be beaten up so badly by Araki Takashi? How embarrassing. You!" Goddess Xiaoxiang was furious. Although Yu Luocha's words were tough, she sighed internally. Now that she was targeted by goddess Xiaoxiang, there was no way she would help Su Zimo. While Yu Luocha and goddess Xiaoxiang were arguing, both sides had already exchanged blows on the battlefield. Su Zimo looked at the gray beam of light and his eyes turned pitch black rapidly. It was like an endless abyss that one could not see the bottom of. Nether fluorescent pupil. After cultivating in Kunlun ruins for all these years, Su Zimo had already cultivated his nether fluorescent pupil to greater mastery. Su Zimo's left eye also shot out a pitch-black beam of light. The temperature of the world plummeted and a sinister wind blew. Remnant Eye tilted his head and his expression changed slightly. Although he was blind, his perception of the outside world far surpassed that of others. In his senses, an extremely terrifying force had actually burst forth in front of him, and it wasn't even weaker than his Azura's eye. What was even more terrifying was that the power fluctuations seemed to have awakened a fear that had long been sealed in the depths of Remnant Eye's bloodline. Boom! The black beam collided with the gray beam. The void at the point of collision caved in deeply and the surrounding dermic powers froze instantly, covered in a layer of frost. The two powers devoured and clashed continuously without giving in to each other. After a brief pause, the two types of power completely collapsed as they clashed against each other. Drawl when they saw that, the living beings of the myriad races and the young masters of the primordial races were shocked. Araki Takashi's visual technique was actually able to fight to a draw against the Eye of Death of the Heavenly Eye race. The darkness in Su Zimo's eyes gradually receded. However, Remnant Eye did not move. All of a sudden, Remnant Eye opened his mouth and let out a tragic scream. A stream of blood flowed out from his heavenly eye in a shocking manner. It was not a draw. Remnant Eye's heavenly eye was injured. Everyone was shocked. Many cultivators cheered excitedly at the sight of this. "It's nether fluorescent pupil. It's nether fluorescent pupil." Remnant Eye clutched the heavenly eye on his glabella and roared hysterically at Su Zimo with a pair of pitch-black holes on his face. "Impossible! That's impossible! How do you know that visual technique?" Remnant Eye finally recalled what the power fluctuation that terrified him was. The young masters of the primordial races were shocked. Nether fluorescent pupil. That was the visual technique of a taboo god of the primordial era. Who would have thought that it would reappear in the body of a human today? You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.